BIISS, I, Dr. Sophia Khanum, Senior Research Fellow of this institution, welcome you all to today's seminar on Global Economic Slowdown, Bangladesh's apparel industry and decent work. Today, we are very honored to have His Excellency Dr. Moshiur Rahman, former Economic Advisor to the Honorable Prime Minister, Government of the People's Republic of Bangladesh, amongst us as the chief guest. Distinguished audience, we are also very delighted to have His Excellency Ambassador Masood bin Momen, Foreign Secretary, Senior Secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Tapan Kanti Ghosh, Senior Secretary, Ministry of Commerce, and Mr. Mohammad Ehsan E. Elahi, Secretary, Ministry of Labor and Employment, Government of the People's Republic of Bangladesh, amongst us as special guests. Learned audience, today's session will begin with the welcome address by Major General Abu Bakr Siddiq Khan, Director General, BIISS. Dr. Mahfuz Kabir, Research Director of this institution, will present the keynote for this seminar. Respected audience, we are privileged to have the learned panelist, Professor Dr. Mustafizur Rahman, Distinguished Fellow, Center for Policy Dialogue, Mr. Kamran Tanvirur Rahman, President, Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Mohammad Akhtar Hossain Apurbo, Vice President, Bangladesh Knitwear Manufacturers and Exporters Association, Mr. Farooq Hassan, President, Bangladesh Garment Manufacturer and Exports Association, for sharing their remarks. This panel discussion will be followed by an open discussion and a speech by respected special guests. Finally, the Honorable Chief Guest of today's seminar will deliver his valuable address. Distinguished audience, this seminar will be chaired by Ambassador AFM Gausul Azam Sharkar, Chairman, BIISS. Now, I request the session chair to take over the session. Thank you all.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Your Excellency, Dr. Moshiur Rahman, former Economic Affairs Advisor to the Honorable Prime Minister, Government of Bangladesh, Your Excellency, Ambassador Masood bin Momen, Foreign Secretary and Senior Secretary, Government of Bangladesh, Mr. Tapan Kanti Ghosh, Senior Secretary, Ministry of Commerce, Government of Bangladesh, Mr. Mohammad Ehsan Elahi, Secretary, Ministry of Labor and Employment, Government of Bangladesh, Major General Muhammad Abu Bakr Siddiq Khan, NDC AFWC, PSC G+, Director General, Bangladesh Institute of International and Strategic Studies, BIISS, Mr. Farooq Hassan, President, Bangladesh Garment Manufacturers and Exporters Association, BGMEA, Mr. Mohammad Akhtar Hossain Apurbo, Vice President, Bangladesh Knitwear Manufacturers and Exporters Association, BKMEA, Mr. Kamran Tanvirur Rahman, President, Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Dhaka, MCCI, Professor Dr. Mustafizur Rahman, President, Distinguished Fellow, Center for Policy Dialogues, CPD, Excellencies and esteemed members of Diplomatic Corps present here, distinguished government officials, learned speakers, participants, guests, media friends, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. In this month of victory, let me pay my profound homage to Father of the Nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, whose singular leadership gave us victory and independence in 1971. And gratefully remember millions of those whose supreme sacrifice and heroism brought it. Today, we are holding this seminar on global economic slowdown, Bangladesh's apparel industry, and decent work. The purpose of the seminar is understanding dynamics of related issues and exploring through stakeholders' discussions and expert views and practicable ways and means of addressing the issues and challenges together. We are profoundly honored to have Honorable Dr. Mashur Rahman. We feel also privileged to have esteemed Foreign Secretary, Senior Secretary, Commerce, Secretary, Ministry of Labor and Employment as special guests today. We are delighted to have a set of distinguished panelists with us: President BGMEA, Vice President BKMEA, President MCCI, Distinguished Fellow CPD, and also my colleague, Director PIISS, Dr. Mahfuz Kabir, as keynote presenter. We have already heard how will be the order of interventions and deliberations in this seminar today, so I'm not repeating. So without further ado, I'd like to request Director General BIISS to deliver his welcome address. General Siddiq Khan, please.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Honorable Chief Guest, Your Excellency, Dr. Mashur Rahman, former Economic Affairs Advisor to the Honorable Prime Minister, Government of People's Republic of Bangladesh. Honorable Chief Guest, Your Excellency, Ambassador Masood bin Momen, Senior Secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Tapun Kanti Ghosh, Senior Secretary, Ministry of Commerce, Mr. Ehsan E. Elahi, Secretary, Ministry of Labor and Employment, His Excellencies from different countries, respected Chairman, Ambassador AFM Gausul Azam Sarkar, learned panelists, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and good morning to you all. On behalf of Bangladesh Institute of International and Strategic Studies, I welcome you all to this seminar on global economic slowdown, Bangladesh apparel industry and decent work. My heartfelt gratitude to the Honorable Chief Guest and the special guests for gracing this session. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to all of you for joining us in this critical discourse on issues that have far-reaching implications for our nation and its workforce. At the outset, I would like to pay my deepest tribute to the father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, and his family members, along with 3 million martyrs who laid down their lives for the liberation of our motherland, Bangladesh. Distinguished guests, the world is currently grappling with formidable challenge, a global economic slowdown that has cast its shadow over nations, industries, and individual lives. The complex wave of interconnected economies has made us vulnerable to any disruption in international trade and finance. At the heart of the complex scenario lies the need for collective understanding, collaboration, and innovative solutions to navigate through these uncertain times. Bangladesh has emerged as a key player in the global textile and garment market, contributing significantly to the national economy and providing employment of opportunities for millions. The inclusion of the Made in Bangladesh label has further elevated the country's reputation, establishing it as a prominent brand worldwide. The ready-made garments industry, which is now the largest export-earning sector of Bangladesh, has played a pivotal role in the country's economy's transformation. However, the challenges posed by the ongoing economic slowdown demand careful consideration, strategic planning, and a commitment to sustainable practices. Ladies and gentlemen, in the wake of global economic downturn, the apparel industry has faced disruption in supply chains, fluctuating demand, and shifting consumer preferences. The World Bank's most recent Global Economic Prospect report indicates that the global economy is entering a noticeable slowdown since post-COVID-19 recovery. The conflict of Ukraine has resulted in a further economic slowdown. These challenges, while formidable, also present us with opportunities to reassess and realign our strategies. We must explore the avenues for diversification, invest in research and development, and foster innovation to ensure the resilience and competitiveness for our apparel sector on the global stage. Equally crucial is our commitment to ensuring decent work for the millions of individuals employed in the industry. Decent work encompasses fair wages, safe working conditions, and the protection of workers' rights. As we discuss the future of apparel industry, let us not forget the human aspect, the men and the women whose hard work and dedication fuel its growth. By prioritizing decent work, we not only enhance the well-being of our workforce, but also contribute to the overall productivity and sustainability of the industry. Dear participants, as Bangladesh navigates through the complexities of global economic landscape, let us draw inspiration from our collective resilience and determination. Bangladesh has overcome numerous challenges in the past, and working together, we can build a brighter future for our nation and ensure the well-being of our people. In conclusion, I urge all participants to engage actively in the discussions, share insights, and foster a spirit of collaboration. Let this seminar be a platform for the exchange of ideas, the forging partnership, and the formulation of actionable strategies to propel Bangladesh apparel industry forward while upholding the principles of decent work. Finally, again, I express my gratitude to the Honorable Chief Guest and the special guests, along with the learned audience and distinguished panelists, for encouraging us with your kind participation. Thank you for your attention, and I wish you all a productive and enlightening seminar. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Joy Bangla.
Thank you, Director General. I'd like to underline here that the deliberations today are centering on the foundational aspect of our national economy, as the apparel industry is undeniably a vitally important cornerstone of our economy. On its success, many things depend concerning livelihood of millions of individuals and their social dynamics. It is not about a sector only. It is about the lion's share of our trade, about a cluster of industry, about growth and poverty eradication, about social transformation. We are happy that we have witnessed the resilience of this industry, the commitment of the government of Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, having a hands-on policy since the beginning of her stint, and the collaboration with key players to ensure the welfare of our workforce. We are also concerned that our apparel sector is facing global economic slowdown. Consequences of the pandemic, Russia-Ukraine war, fall of export due to decrease in global demand, while need for workers' pay rise is becoming acuter due to various reasons. The stark reality of it with complexity of issues will duly be analyzed, and we hope the panelists and experts will shed lights on what we can do, need to do, how we can ensure survival of the industry, maintaining responsible, green, and sustainable manufacturing practices, and what cooperation the buyer's side and their importing countries extend to us with principles of ethicality and fairness in dealing with the challenging situation. Against this backdrop, I'll now welcome Dr. Mahfouz Kabir, Research Director, BIISS, to deliver his keynote presentation. Dr. Kabir, please.
Yes. Thank you, respected Chair, Honorable Chief Guest, respected special guests, fellow panelists, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. So, I welcome you to my presentation on the global economic slowdown, Bangladesh apparel industry, and decent growth. All the three, in fact, dimensions are interlinked, as you understand. So, I'll actually demonstrate and speak on something which you already know, but I'll shed some different lights on it. So, it's like many parts of the world, in the developed part and the developing economies, the Bangladesh is currently passing an uncomfortable period. If you see the, in fact, episodes since early 1920, so first we, in fact, experienced the COVID-19, and then the African war, and now you see the tension in the Middle East because of the Hamas-Israel war. So that is the, in fact, back-to-back impact on the whole economy. And then, so, and then it actually dampened the impressive growth of the country. So if you see the whole growth trajectory of the country, so since 2017, so we see about 8% of GDP growth. And then right after the onset of COVID-19, so we see the downtrend of the economic growth. And then the economy again came up with an impressive kind of growth, about 7%. But unfortunately, after the onset of the Ukraine war, so we see again a downturn. And now the economy has been suffering from many aspects. So, and it has, in fact, posed a lot of challenges to the ongoing global economic activities as well as developmental activity, even though we have been, in fact, implementing a lot of mega projects and other things in the economy. So from the government side, there is a strong supply, but from the private sector, so why government invest? So it paves the way to invest the, in fact, local and international investors. So the investment is not coming in that way. So, and the disruption in the input-output supply chain and the energy crisis. So both are happening. So it's not something like, I mean, it's resolving, but day to day we see that it's going on. So, and it has deepened the slowdown, especially in the global arena. So we can see at least two things in the developed world. The first is the price hike. So it has increased significantly in the EU, US, and other developed countries. And what they did, they in fact increased the policy interest rate. But Bangladesh didn't do it, because if the policy rate is increased, then the banks will face a lot of pressure. So they will also have to increase their interest rate. So Bangladesh did not do it, even though the banking sector underwent a lot of pressure because of the inflation. So and because of that, there is a liquidity crisis. Still, I would say that the Bangladesh Bank, so they did the appreciate job. So, and that created a space and the comfort zone for the investors and the industry. So, and then the Honorable Prime Minister, she has in fact created a special fund for the industry. So and they provided the incentive. So that created a space, and because of that, the industry is continuing. So that was one of the things, the special thing that, in fact, the developed countries that they couldn't. So if you see the banking sector of the US, so the three banks, in fact, have fallen down, But in Bangladesh, you cannot mention at least one bank. So that in fact underperforms. So that is the reality. So, but in fact, the awful thing is that the whole economic things, I mean, the reality that is that the international demand has decreased. So, because of the inflation and because of the tightening monetary policy. So, but Bangladesh, in fact, continued in selective austerity like the regulatory duty on import of non-essential items. So it's still going on, and then discouraged DLC import on in fact on most of the in fact items except the four. So the first one is the food import, then energy and medicine, and inputs for the export-oriented industries. So these are continuing. It's basically the selective austerity that is creating a balance within the economy. So now if we see the GDP growth, so this is the figure from the IMF, so the latest statistics. So you can see that in most of the places in the world, so if we consider the in fact developed part of the world, so it's facing a lot of trouble because of the lower economic growth. And if you see the recent trend of the growth, then you see that in 2007 and 8, so the global economy faced serious downturn. But if you see the case of 2020 and onwards, so you will see even a more devastating scenario because of the growth. So in 2008, the growth rate was the 3.5% in the developed advanced economy, and this time it was in fact negative of 4.2%. So that is the in fact baseline of the global economy. Now, if we see the real GDP growth, so that this projection has been made by the in fact IMF, so in the global economic outlook. So we can see that in the world economic growth, so that is facing downturn, and especially the USA, EU, both are in fact facing serious downturn in their economic growth, and UK also. So if we consider these three in fact zones, so these are basically the main destination of our export items, especially the RMG. So, but if we see the forecast, so we cannot expect it, in fact, speedy recovery of the global economy in the near future. So at least to 2028 will be required to have a normalcy. And then if we see the, in fact, the whole economy, especially the, in fact, export sector, then we can see a heavy concentration. So and especially the RMG sector is leading. So it's now about 85% of the total merchandise export. But if we compare it with the other regions and countries like LDC, so there's LDC is in fact below if we consider the diversification index compared to Bangladesh. And if we consider the other countries like the South Asian countries, so most of the countries are doing well in terms of the diversification of the economy and export sector. So now the other thing is like the foreign exchange reserve. So it's going down. So and now if we consider the BPM, so it's suggested by IMF, so it's about 19 billion US dollars. So it's foreign exchange reserve. But fortunately, because of the selective austerity, so we are still having a comfort zone in this regard. So, but as we already mentioned, so we are suffering from inflation. So it's about 10% according to the official statistics of the BBS, and that has created a lot of other implications to the economy. So I'll be talking on this in the latter part of my presentation. So now, if we see the RMG sector, so it's a main contributor to the export earning of Bangladesh. So it's going up, and its contribution is also increasing day by day. And if we consider the knitwear and apparel in the apparel sector, so it's number one. It's followed by the in fact woven garments. And major destinations, basically, if we consider the export of RMG products, then EU is half of the total, and then USA, and then UK, so Canada. In fact, now again, we see that Japan. Japan is also again another important destination, and Australia, and nowadays India is playing a big role. So there's a market concentration. So then that we can see that the few destinations are in fact explaining most of the our exports. And then main exported products. So if we can identify at least 5 products, which actually the in fact largest contributor to the export earning from the apparel sector. So what is the in fact specialty of the RMG in the recent years? So we can see that in fact Bangladesh RMG industry marked significant stride towards the sustainable fashion. So now it's a buzzword in the global literature. So now a total of it's the statistics of the December. latest statistics, a total of 206 LED certified green factories in Bangladesh, and 24, in fact, certificate is obtained in the year 2023, and 16 achieved the platinum, which is the highest, and 8 achieved the gold rating, and 54 out of 100 LED certified green factories worldwide located in Bangladesh. And in fact, we are proud of, in fact, having 9 out of 10 top factories and 18 out of 20. And over 500 of the Bangladeshi factories are in the process of obtaining the LEED certificate. Now, this is basically the, in fact, impressive part. If we consider the awful part, so if we consider the price of our exported item, the R&D sector, then you can see that it's getting the second lowest price. It's very unfortunate. So in the EU market, so if you consider knitwear, it's second lowest, and even if you consider the woven garments, it's also second. So the other countries are getting the higher price. Okay, if we see some of the important products like the t-shirt, cotton t-shirt, then women's jerseys, woven jerseys of cotton, and then trousers. So if we consider all this, then you can see that Bangladesh is either the lowest recipient of the price, unit price, or the second lowest in most of the cases. So that is happening in the global market, especially in the EU. Now, if you see the EU and US scenario, so it's the data from the, in fact, International Trade Center. So Bangladesh is getting, in terms of the unit price of the exported apparel to the EU, is the lowest. So it's, and in the price of exported apparel to the US market, it's the, in fact, the second lowest. So, and if we see the top exporting countries price, so vis-a-vis the Bangladesh price, so Bangladesh is in some selected products is getting the lowest. And this is another thing. So if we consider the configuration of the total price, so you can see the labor. So labor cost is, for example, in the basic cost sheet. So it for a product like the price of $10 US, so labor cost is only 64 cents. And if we consider the, in fact, some of the selected products like the men's V-neck sweater, so if its price is $16.52, then the labor cost is $2.92. And if we consider the woven jeans, then if its price is in fact $8, then its labor cost is $0.48, at least 48 cents. So this is basically the price scenario. So, and all the costs are, in fact, identified, and you cannot move. The industrialists cannot move from one part to another. So that is basically the thing, and there is a lot of competition. So it's not something like, I mean, even though in fact, garment sector has, in fact, to specialized, like, I mean, the woven sector for, and for the knitwear sector, so they have the association, but for price. So the buyers basically, in fact, fragment in fact, the industries. So that is happening. So, and because of the unfair competition among the, in fact, the factory owners, so they, in fact, the international buyers, they know that, and they can, in fact, bargain with the factory owners to, in fact, to downsize the price. So that is happening. And what happened in the recent times? So because of the high depreciation of the US dollar, so and it's not only the depreciation, it's also because of the unavailability, it has created the high rate of US dollars in the market. So and price hike of the imported and locally sourced physical inputs, so that has happened, and we can see that. And per unit power energy cost, so it has also increased significantly, and we have seen that there is an unavailability of the electricity in the last year. So we have in fact overcome that, but still, I mean, we don't know what will happen in, after this winter. And then increased registration license, including the renewal and certification fees. So all have increased, both from the government side, the government of Bangladesh, and also the local government institutions. So, and the interest rate at the bank. So we have worked a lot, in fact, for decades to reduce the in fact, lending interest rate from the banks. But now we see, because of the, in fact, the suggestion from the IMF, so we had to, in fact, especially the banks of Bangladesh, they had to increase their lending interest rate, and now it's not fixed. So it can increase anytime. So that is happening, and that has been creating a lot of pressure on the entrepreneurs. And increased cost of debt servicing. So that is also an awful part. So because of the high interest rate from the banks, so in the decades of 2010, so a lot of entrepreneurs, they borrowed from the outside, from the international market. Now they have to pay, so in the high price. So that's happening. So, and it has created a lot of pressure. And a special thing has happened, which is called the quantity produced far less than capacity. So, and the entrepreneurs are operating with the excess capacity. So that's an awful part. So if they could, in fact, exploit their full capacity, then the scenario could have been different. So it's something like a monopolistic condition of production with excess capacity. So, but the market is perfectly competitive. So now the issue of decent work. So if we can see the trend of workforce. So according to the, in fact, the labor force survey, we can see that the workers, the male workers are increasing in number in the RMG sector. But still, if we see the survey of manufacturing industries of 2019, so a total of 3.25 million workers are working in the RMG sector. Among them, around 60% were women. So, but still, I mean, the ratio is decreasing. So, and 2 decades ago, we are in fact proudly saying that the RMG in the RMG workforce, the women are about 80%, then they will decline to 70%. Now it's 60%. And if we see the, in fact, export per RMG workers, so now it's according to the statistics of 2022-23, it's about 15,000 US dollars. Now, what is the, in fact, economic justification of the, in fact, wage rate? Definitely productivity. So it's practiced worldwide. So in any kind of industry, so productivity is the first benchmark. Even though the government of Bangladesh and also the, in fact, committed countries in the UN, so they have committed towards, in fact, achieving a kind of decent work through the, in fact, wage. So, but still, if the, in fact, industry is to operate, then they have to remain profitable. And how they will remain profitable? So they have to have a globally, in fact, a competitive a kind of productivity. So that is the thing. And if we consider the statistics of the Asian Productivity Organization, then you can see. So these are shown in the slide. So Bangladesh productivity of the workers, so it's one of the lowest in the world. So in terms of the long-term growth, as well as the growth in 2000 and 2010 decades. And if we see the labor income share, definitely. So they are also in the total work, they are also some of the lowest. I mean, it's the second lowest. And per worker labor productivity is also one of the lowest in the world. And another thing is that it's because of the, in fact, the attitude of the international buyers. So even though we are progressing in terms of labor productivity compared to many other countries who are our international competitors, we are not getting our due share through price. So that is apparent from the APO productivity database of 2023. So that is an important thing because other countries are progressing. For example, India, so they have their productivity has increased. So and they have the, in fact, the workers who have, in fact, more schooling than our workers. But compared to the, in fact, the growth of productivity over the last 2 decades, Bangladesh is ahead. But still, Bangladesh is not getting the price that India is getting. So and it's happening again with Cambodia, even Sri Lanka and Vietnam. So they are getting a higher price than us. Now, it's the last part of my presentation. It's about the decent work. So Bangladesh is clearly committed to attain the SDG 8, which is talking about the decent work for all. And it has been clearly, in fact, mentioned and reflected in the 8th five-year plan of the country. and it's the employment opportunity through transforming youth into skilled human resources. Now you see, the Bangladesh government is committed towards increasing productivity. So through its policies and interaction with the entrepreneurs. And if you see the social protection programs, so there are in fact at least two programs which clearly is about the in fact working environment in the R&D sector. So from the government's perspective, so the government is implementing the social protection program and it's interacting with the R&D sector for decent work, and it's also in fact promulgating laws and other directives to the sector so that the environment is gets improved. Now the final point is regarding the earning. So how the work will be decent. So the first indicator is the wage. Now there is a debate regarding the poverty level income. So now we see that the in fact minimum wage is taka 12,500. So what is the gap between this wage and the poverty level income? So I just calculated based on the in fact the HACE, the 2022, and if a worker has 4 family members, then he needs or she needs the 15,328 taka at least, I mean, to remain at the upper poverty line. So that is required, and if you see the debates, so you see, I mean, that the demand is like 23,000. So that created a kind of confusion. So and I don't know how it happened, but if we see that the productivity and the wage and the international comparison of productivity, so it's a complex thing. And if we consider the price, the labor price, which is given by EU, US, and other countries, the developed countries, the buyers. So that doesn't reflect it doesn't in fact translate into the in fact income, which is consistent with the in fact poverty line. So that is a complex way. So we need to discuss things and if required debate on this particular issue regarding when we talk about the decent employment. So these are basically the things that we need to discuss. And with this, I'd like to thank everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Mahfuz Kabir, for giving a good background and analysis of the issues relating to the topic we are discussing today. You have brought in a lot of statistics and also a lot of insights, and I think the other panelists will explain further. So now we are going to President BGMEA, Mr. Farooq Hassan. I request you to take the floor, sir.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Chief guests of today's program, special guests, excellencies, fellow panelists, ladies and gentlemen. A very good morning to you all. It's December, the month of glory of our nation, the month that brought us our sovereignty and freedom through unprecedented sacrifice. I would like to pay my deepest respect to the father of our nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, and for all the martyrs in the war of our liberation. Today, we have gathered here to discuss one of the contemporary issues regarding global economic slowdown, and I will highlight some facts around the apparel industry. It is not a news to us anymore that the world is passing through a tough time, challenged with number of issues like geopolitical tension, slowdown in the global economy, supply chain crisis, and inflation. You all know that we are already affected by the pandemic of century COVID-19, and we are still healing. Now the global economy slowdown has cast a shadow on our economy and industry, which is of course concerning to us. As per the latest World Economic Outlook report published by IMF in October, the global growth may slow down from 3.5% in 2022 to 3% in 2023, and further slowdown is feared in 2024, which could be 2.9%. Advanced economics are expected to slow down from 2.69% in 2022 to 1.5% in 2023 as their policy tightening start to bite. You know that advanced economics started following contractionary monetary policy to curb inflation by increasing their interest rate, which has actually affected consumer spending, retail sales, demand for apparel, and price level. Emerging market and developing economies are projected to have a modest decline in growth from 4.1% in 2020 to 4% in 2023. Now let's see how this limping global scenario has affecting the apparel industry in Bangladesh. First of all, the worldwide inflation had directly affected the retail market, and we witnessed a decrease in overall earning in Europe by 13.14% in the first 10 months of 2023, while Bangladesh experienced a 17.32% decrease. Similarly, the United States saw a 22.71% decline in overall earning in 10 months, January to October, and Bangladesh experienced a 24.75% decrease. This pressure affected the price of major clothing items, leading to a 7 to 9% decrease in our average unit price of major items. Excess inventory, less consumption, and less demand impacted the price level. On the local front, we face challenge in terms of increased electricity and gas prices, a decrease in foreign currency reserve, issues and losses related to wage determination, and several others. So far in this calendar year, 2023, we have been able to achieve 4.35% growth, and July, November of 2023 fiscal year, our export growth came down to 2.75% as per EPB. As per WTO in 2022, the global apparel trade was worth of $576 billion. And given the fact that the demand has slowed down, price level has dropped, and major market import has dropped significantly in the first 10 months of this year, the global clothing trade in 2023 will not be good as the level of 2022. However, as we are going to start a new year, the encouraging sign for us is that the retail sales in the year end in US and Europe saw a record turnover, indicating a possible rebound in retail sales. The US holiday spending, Thanksgiving, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and the Super Saturday this year's bound become true as the US Census Bureau published the November update of the retail sales report. Even the number of shoppers in UK Boxing Day saw an increase of 8.8%. This turnaround brings the hope for a better year ahead. I always emphasize on one fact that the resilience and turnaround capability is our strength, which has helped us to be where we are today. In our 45 years of journey in this sector, we faced many challenges and have successfully overcome all those challenges. The entrepreneurship mindset of our business owner, hard work and dedication gathered from our workers, policy support from government, and our partnership with global brands and buyers are our magic one for success. Even though the industry has swapped by the chain effect of COVID-19, we stayed on course and never deviated from our sustainability practices. We are now slowly moving towards our goal of achieving $100 billion within 2030. Through hindrances and obstacles, we have been able to double our export earning in last one decade, reaching $47 billion in export in fiscal year of 22-23. With more than 3,500 active clothing factories at present and $20 billion in investment, the sector contributes almost 11% in the GDP and support over 4 million jobs directly. This sector has opened up a new opportunity for the underprivileged female workers, and they have blessed us with their strength and hardworking capacity. In last decade, we have improved our technology features, safety, product quality, and category, and environmental sustainability by several orders of magnitude. We have started our journey from exporting only $10,000 worth of product, and now today with 206 USGBC green certified factories in the world. In 2022, we had 30 more LEED certified factories, 15 are platinum, 15 are gold. Despite all the challenges this year, 24 R&D factories achieved this LEED certificate factories certificate. The fact that amazes all of us is that Bangladesh does neither grow cotton nor is an integrated producer of textile and apparel, but we have already become the second largest apparel exporting country in the world. The unparalleled entrepreneurship spirit and the dedication and determination of millions of our workers are all behind this success story. We are now the largest source of denim, both in USA and EU market, and also chasing China's share in the EU market. Our export shares in the Europe in terms of quantity has exceeded the share of China in 2022. And during January-September this year, we became the top sourcing country to European Union for knitwear, both in value and quantity. We also gained the position of top cotton sourcing country to USA briefly during January to October 2023. There is a wider perception that Bangladesh is a commodity producer, which is not true anymore. You will be surprised to know that we are manufacturing garment worth more than $100 of unit price FOB, which means the retail is almost $400 to $500. We have taken a vision to remodel our industry from labor-intensive manufacturing to innovation, high value, and modern manufacturing process. And that is where I believe Bangladesh more values to the global brand and retailers. This growth has not come automatically. The garment industry in Bangladesh has started its journey in late 70s with a journey of more than four decades. The industry has become through a thick and thin and successfully overcome all the hurdles to reach where we are at today. Starting from child labor elimination in 1994 to facing the epidemic of the century, COVID, we have come back even stronger. We have seen that the global business landscape, ESG, environment, social, and governance are not more a niche issue, rather it is emerged as one of the major areas of concern. Keeping that in mind, we have positioned ourselves in the global market with the commitment of continuously delivering the better. Over the years, the industry has made tremendous strides on social and economic front and successfully transformed into a responsible undertaking. In the last few years, we have fast transformed our manufacturing as a responsible undertaking in all respects, be that caring about safety, social norm, and environment, workplace safety, and worker well-being is a supreme consideration for us. Bangladesh is now one of the safest apparel producing countries in the world. Bangladesh is further amending the labor law. We are rigorously promoting social dialogue in our factories, in addition to the mandatory formation of Worker Participation Committee, Safety Committee. Many more initiatives under consideration to make our manufacturing process transparent, accountable, and more responsible. Strengthening better industrial relations is a priority for us, and this can be achieved through increased workplace cooperation, dialogue, and building awareness on rights and responsibilities, both on that part of workers and management. We are promoting social dialogue in our factories. The ILO's Better Work Bangladesh program reached out to more than 450 garment factories covering more than 1.4 million workers. 50% of them are women and engaged with 48 international brands. The industry has opened gates for our female workers to pursue their dreams for higher education in the Asian University for Women, where female workers pursue their higher studies at free of cost, and factories grant them leave with full pay. Most of our workers maintain healthcare center, eye care facilities, daycare center, fair price shop, and so on within the premises. Many of those also run school, hospital, and social charitable initiative for the community and employ physically challenged people. Beyond the conventional approach to sustainability, our factories are now investing millions of dollars in areas like circular fashion, renewable energy, and other energy and process efficient modern technologies. We do have a highly potential post-industrial textile recycling sector in Bangladesh. We are working seriously to facilitate the development of recycling to use tons of factory fabric scrap. To expedite our sustainability journey, BGME has taken a sustainability vision 2030 by prioritizing ESG, that means environment, social, and governance. Under this vision, we have taken a series of initiatives which aims to reduce 30% of carbon emission, 50% use of sustainable raw materials, 50% reduction of groundwater uses, 100% use of zero discharge of hazardous chemical, 30% reduction of energy use, 20% use of renewable energy, and 30% reduction of deforestation. These targets have been fixed in accordance with RES to Zero, GSG emission, SDGs, and national priority indicators of the government of Bangladesh. You are aware that the global scale due diligence protocol are emerging one after another. We have a German due diligence protocol, corporate sustainability due diligence directive by European Union, French corporate duty of vigilance law, 2015 Modern Slavery Act, the UK's own due diligence legislation for supply chain, Dutch bill on the Responsible and Sustainable International Business Conduct Act, etc. These are all good, but they have cost implication. All this should be uniformity among this legislation. At this same time, multiple social audit by different brands make it confusing. These are some of the areas that concern us, and we need more preparation locally as we need more global support and cooperation to prepare ourselves. Ensuring decent living and fair wages has become an urge of the global community and the foreign brand retailers as well. In fact, we have received letters from global organizations like Amfori, American Apparel and Footwear Association, the Action Collaboration, Transformation. Few of them wrote directly to the Honorable Prime Minister of Bangladesh, directly urging them living wages of the workers, the engagement of the European Commission and the United States on workers' empowerment rights covering wages issues got momentum throughout the year. But when it comes to ethical price and responsible purchasing, we still wait to see any significant global move to ensure transparency and accountability on pricing issues. A letter signed by 8 congressmen of the US Congress on the 15th December 2023 to the American Apparel and Footwear Association was exceptional, as it calls upon the US brand. I want to quote, commit to maintaining a long-term sourcing relationship with your suppliers and to increasing your purchasing price to fully absorb the additional labor costs, unquote. We are also in support of better living of our workers, and we are doing our best. From BGMA, I wrote several letters to the brand retailers and their representatives sharing the same update and urging them to readjust the price and absorb the new additional wages. It is quite encouraging that from few of them, we have received formal letter from few of brand and their position to pay increased wage amount to the respective supplier, but many have not responded yet. As we stand committed to ensure better living for our workers, it is now the time to pay more attention on responsible purchasing practice to ensure well-being of our workers. Going forward, our vision is to reach $100 billion to export by 2030. To achieve that level, diversification of product, fiber, and market are our key priorities. In recent years, we made significant investment in value added segment like activewear, outerwear, denim, lingerie, suits, fancy dresses, and formal wear. BGM is also working to develop luxury dresses for ladies using our centuries-old heritage material like jamdani and muslin. We are also focusing on efficiency enhancement and capacity development in terms of new product development and innovation, efficiency and professionalism, skill enhancement, and build more tech-savvy industry. For that, BGM has established and launched the Center of Innovation, Efficiency, and OSH, Occupational Safety and Health. I invite you all to collaborate with the Innovation Center of BGMA. For us, the path is to graduate from OEM to ODM as we focus more on end-to-end digital manufacturing. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come this far through collaboration and cooperation, and we have to rely on that for future growth as well. Going forward, not only in 2024, but also in next decade, we will try to keep the momentum with an additional emphasis on the lower tiers of factories. Along with that, to overrun the challenges associated with LDC graduation and the changing market demand, non-cotton and high value added market is our priority agenda. If we want to keep ourselves relevant in the global market, there is no alternative to focus on innovation, technological upgradation, design and skill development, and overall business capabilities. For us, the well-being and dignity of our workers are our supreme consideration, and we need recognition and rewards. Only punitive measures in the downstream, in the global supply chain would not bring any lasting solution. Thank you all for your patient hearing. Joy Bangla, May Bangladesh live forever.
Thank you indeed, President BGMEA, for your comprehensive remarks on the subject we are discussing today. You have covered all its aspects, its growth, its strength, its progress, its challenges, and also your future vision and your concern and efforts for the decent work and the workers' welfare. It is indeed a very encouraging picture, but of course, the economic slowdown and decline in demand that is pressing us hard, and we have to look for different ways, including the alternative ways of meeting these challenges. Of course, in your remarks, you have hinted at those as well. And indeed, we have to progress as an industry that is, I mean, very important, vitally important national goal of ours. So we'd like to hear more from other panelists. We are going to request Mr. Mohammad Akhtar Hussain Apurbo, Vice President BKMEA, to take the floor and give his remarks.
Thank you. Should I speak from here or I will go to the dais?
I think it would be better if
Yeah,
you could
sure.
come to the podium, please.
Thank you very much. A very good morning to you, all of you. Honorable Your Excellency, the Honorable Ambassadors and Secretaries and Honorable guests here. I would like to thank everybody here to come and join us. Actually, I had a very good piece of paper to present here on behalf of BKMEA, but the thing is, if I would like to go through this paper, it might be a replications of what my friend, my brother, BGMA President Farooq Bhai has said. It would be the same. The situation actually, he already very well explained here. What I can say here, I have few points that I would like to discuss here from the presentation of Mr. Mahfouz Kabir. He correctly mentioned some issues that need to be discussed. First, he said about the average poverty level income of 15,328 taka, the minimum wage. Maybe this price actually we are offering to our workers. How? Because the minimum wages declared by the wage board is around 12,500 taka, but if we consider the overtime and other benefits, it would be come up with 15,500 or something. So we are covering this one. He mentioned in his presentation that we producers are now in very tremendous pressure because of the economic downfall in the overall world. The international interest rate for the foreign borrowings increased. It was previously 1.75%, labor plus 1.75%. Then in COVID impact, it reduced to a labor plus 0.75% only. At that time, we borrowed a lot. We tried to continue the business and support and export. And then suddenly after this Ukraine-Russia war, it jumped to around 5% plus. Labor plus 5% is very much for us, for our industry owners to bear. And on the other hand, the local interest rate also increased. So we are in a burden of repayment. On top of that, there was fuel and gas price increased by the government for several times. And again, there was lack of supply, which also caused a lot in the cost of production. So on one side, our cost of production increased, whereas the international demand was decreased. What happened ultimately is the price dropped. So we are in tremendous pressure of exporting, but still due to we were having negative growth or lower growth in the industry, we are fighting. And we are pride nations because we have a lot of enthusiastic entrepreneurs. And we are hoping that in some incoming days in 2024, we'll be back. And Mr. Farooq have already mentioned that in knitwear industry, we are now the #1 position in knitwear in terms of value and in terms of quantity. I'm representing knitwear industry, and I'm very proud of my co-owners and my member factories owners that they are fighting. They are fighting. We have opportunities. What opportunities we have is actually +1 countries sourcing, because US is and European Union also, are now searching for some other countries for sourcing rather than China. So where the demand goes, like if the overall demand for the world market will drop even, but there is demand from Bangladesh share. Bangladesh share, if we consider is the total apple size is 100%, there will be a contribution of China is 40%, and Bangladesh maybe or 20-25%. Now, if some sourcing countries are sourcing rather than China, then where they will go? Market demand for the world, all over world will go 20% down, maybe 80% is there. But out of 40%, there is 20% still prevails, and this is our opportunity. What we are now trying to grab these opportunities. We are ready to accommodate these orders, and I'm very hopeful that in coming days the world situation will improve, and we will go further. One additional point Mr. Mahfouz Kabir definitely rightly mentioned here that the productivity in Bangladesh workers, this is a major concern for us because we are at the bottom level comparing the other countries, other competitive countries. But this is our opportunity as well, because if there is less productive workers here, and if we could take the opportunity to make them more productive, then we can be more competitive and we can still compete with our competitor suppliers. So these are the opportunities we can think about. There is a lot of hopes in futures. And finally, I would like to thank you everyone for being here. And I would like to make some more conversation with the audience from here when the floor is open. I'm ready to discuss. Sorry. One more thing I would like to, because before a few minutes I was discussing with Mahfouz Kabir before joining here that the impact of RMG industry, we are thinking about only economic terms. But what about the social terms if you're thinking about? In 80s, what was the growth rate, population growth rate in Bangladesh. It was more than 3%. And when it started, the RMG sector, lots of women workers from rural areas are coming here. It automatically, the child marriage from rural areas dropped drastically. They come in the industry, they join from them, influenced by them, a lot of women workers coming and joining in these industries. And there was a gap between 10 to 15 years. They didn't go for marriage because they were working, they were earning, they have their empowerment. They denied to their family that they don't want at that moment to be married. So this is a very impactful, scenario that happened in Bangladesh, that the growth rate, population growth rate dropped a lot, and which is very much beneficial for our entire economy of Bangladesh. So we should consider on these issues as well, because this industry is accommodating a lot of women workers in this industry, and we have to be very careful about their future. Still a lot of working women are in this industry working, and if this industry will have any difficulties, it will create a mess in the social status of the women workers. So we have to be very careful, and we are accommodating a lot of workforce, women workforce in this industry, and I'm very much expecting or hopeful that this industry will carry on these women workers, and we will be able to generate more and more job opportunities for them, and we'll try to help the government as well as the country to more flourish economy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hussain. You have eloquently explained the jeopardy facing the industry, the cost increase in the cost of production, and the cost of utilities, and then productivity level remaining very low, and then the challenge of meeting the social welfare need of the women workers particularly. So thank you. And I would now request Senior Secretary, Ministry of Commerce, to take the floor, because he has a meeting, prefixed meeting, and I'd love to request him to take the floor now so that he can attend his next program.
Honorable Chief Guest, Dr. Moshoor Rahman, Honorable former Economic Affairs Advisor to the Honorable Prime Minister, other special guests, keynote speaker, panelists, distinguished guests, Assalamu alaikum, and very good morning. I don't have any written statements, and I would like to be brief. So I would like to first congratulate Dr. Mahfouz Kobir for his very thought-provoking presentation, and it was very full of analysis and statistics. And also to President from BGMEA, Farooq Bhai, and Mr. Apubu from BKMEA. They has also mentioned a lot of issues, having first-hand knowledge from the industry. So we all know that the today's topic is Bangladesh global economic slowdown, Bangladesh's apparel industry, and decent work. So I think we don't need to spend a lot of time on economic slowdown. We all know that, and particularly for the garments industry, our demand comes from the European Union and North European countries, and we know that due to high inflation and now the monetary tightening, actually demand for our products has gone down for all the countries in EU and US markets, particularly our largest destinations. And it has also come down for Bangladesh as well. But still, we have maintained positive growth for garments export during last 5 months of this fiscal year, from July to November. So I think as has been said by Apurva, that on the one hand, the demand is decreasing, and on the other hand, the cost of production in Bangladesh has significantly risen. But still, our entrepreneurs and workers are doing, comparatively well, I should say. Of course, they are under tremendous pressure, and also the future is not very bright, as has been outlined by the IMF indicator that the next year, 2024, the overall growth of the world will come even, down. Amid this situation, I think we have seen some positive trends in the export of Bangladesh, particularly the garments export, that for the first time, Bangladesh's export in quantity has surpassed that of China in the European Union. And particularly the knitwear garments export has shown their strength, competing with China. And in actually last 3 decades, we talk about the product diversification and the market diversification. Recently, we have seen that we have been able to, achieve some sort of market diversification in other countries other than European Union and North America. Actually, last few years, we have seen very impressive growth of exports in China, in India, in Australia, Japan, South Korea, in these countries. So sort of, market diversification is happening, although we are lagging behind our expectation in the product diversification segment. Actually, government of Bangladesh has taken a lot of initiatives in recent years to break that, dilemma. And we have really formed high-level committees. They have outlined some action plan. We have, formulated some acts like Customs Act, National Tariff Policy, because we know that tariff rationalization is a big issue when we talk about the diversification of products and bringing the products in the global market at a competitive price. So with these positive things, I think if we look at the target of our garments industry, that by 2030, they would like to export $100 billion of products. We see now the major competitors of Bangladesh, as the China One policy is prevailing in the world. And here, the main 3 countries, actually Vietnam, India, and Bangladesh, they are the big suppliers. And last year, we exported 47 billion, India exported 16 billion, and Vietnam exported 36 billion. So I think if the buyers and brands want to shift from China to other countries, I think in garment segment, Bangladesh should be the leader. In other sectors, maybe in electronics and other goods, medicine and others, maybe Vietnam, maybe India would take the lead. But I think for garments, I think Bangladesh is the country that could really take this share that is coming out from the geopolitical changes. And market, and then comes because if we would like to achieve 100 billion in garments, then we have to ensure 2-3 main things. One is the market access, because in 2026, Bangladesh is going to graduate in November 2026. So now, except USA, in all the developed and developing countries, we have the market access, duty-free market access. So we have to retain that market access, and we are working with so many countries for that. We know that in European Union, in UK and Australia, actually, we would continue our duty-free market access up to 2029. And we are, working with them that how post LDC, post 2029, we can retain our market access like GSP Plus in European Union, like enhanced market access in UK. And actually, I don't see any, obstacle to get that sort of enhanced market access, because we have complied all the requirements. We have ratified all the 32 conventions that is required under the new GSP that is being proposed for 2024 to 2034. UK has already announced the next cycle of GSP policy. Australia has also committed. USA, we are in WTO discussing for the extension of graduating LDC countries for the international support measures. And for the first time, that I think Dr. Mustafizur Rahman sir will mention that in October this year, in WTO, the LDC group has been achieved to, have some sort of commitment by the developed country that the graduating LDC countries will be able to get extended period of ISM from the giving countries. So I think that is also hope for LDC countries, graduating LDC countries particularly. We are in discussion with countries like Japan, India, and some other countries where we see that extended exports are going. So post 2026, we need to have comprehensive partnership agreements, FTA, and we are working extensively on that front. I think the next issue I would like to say is that Bangladesh apparel industry's target is achievable. As you have seen that last 10 years, we have been able to double the exports. And last 15 years, actually, except during COVID, 1 year, Bangladesh has always had positive growth, ranging from 2% to 41% in 2011 in exports. So I think it's very good condition in terms of, the entrepreneurial capability, in terms of the willingness of our workers to work in difficult conditions even. And with regard to decent work and sustainability, we are working with our trading partners, with the European Union, with other countries, with USA. In this, actually, in 2023, we had a lot of discussions and meetings with our big trading partners, including Japan, including USA. The TICFA forum, we had meetings with European Union. We had several meetings in Brussels, in Dhaka. So I think we are engaged, and we see that the partners are really willing to cooperate with Bangladesh, willing to support Bangladesh's, economic development, that actually millions of people are coming out of poverty with this industrialization, and that should be supported. And that is our honest, submission to our trading partners, to our development partners, that our people who are trying to, strive their aspiration and then try to, achieve what our Honorable Prime Minister has mentioned, that high-income country by 2041, that should be supported by the, development partners and trade partners. So recently, in the decent work, I think what Dr. Mahfouz Kabir said, the productivity and also the capability of the entrepreneurs, that is a big issue. And we have seen that the wages have been increased. Last time, 5 years back, it was increased by 2,700 taka, from 5,300 to 8,000. This time it has been increased by 5,000 taka. So I think it's a very good enhancement in the wage package. But of course, maybe now the inflation is a bit more, that is a concern. And with regard to productivity, the government is trying to, generate skills by a lot of training programs, by, education, increasing a lot of population under the education of the thing. So with this, I would like to conclude. And within the garments, I think one thing I need to express is that our 85% of our total export is garments, and 70% of that, again, coming from the cotton segment. So if we can go for the non-cotton segment, the man-made fiber, there is huge possibility, among the almost 700 billion US dollars of garments, demand globally. I think we can really make breakthrough if we can diversify within the garment segment, in the MMA particularly, and there you can also be able to produce the value-added products, high-end products among the garments, and thereby increasing the wages and welfare of the common workers of this country. I think that would be a very good initiative. And BJME, I know that they are working. We are working also, trying to giving more incentive also for those entrepreneurs who are going to break this cycle of major concentration and also concentration in cotton. So with this, I would like to thank you, the organizers, to give me opportunity to say something here. Thank you very much. Jai Bangla.
Thank you indeed, Mr. Tapan Kanti Ghosh, Senior Secretary, Ministry of Commerce, for your remarks, and particularly for highlighting what the government is doing in terms of policy and practice improvement, and also in terms of alternative solutions for the industry and also for the welfare of the workers. We will hear more from other special guests towards the closer part of the seminar. Now we have panelists remaining. I'd like to give the floor to Mr. Kamran Tanvirur Rahman, President MCCI. He is an expert in labor law, so we'd like to hear more from that on that. Kamran Tanvirur Rahman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Honorable Chief Guest, Dr. Mashir Rahman, former Economic Affairs Advisor to the Honorable Prime Minister, Government of the People's Republic of Bangladesh. Director General, BIISS, keynote speaker, Dr. Mahfouz Kabir. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning to you all. Thank you for inviting me to join this seminar as a panelist today to discuss the critical issues of global economic slowdown with a particular focus on the Bangladesh apparel industry and the imperative of decent work. I would like to compliment our keynote speaker, Dr. Mahfouz Kabir, for a comprehensive presentation with a lot of details, a lot of statistical information, and I think it was an eye-opener for many of us as far as certain information is concerned. Ladies and gentlemen, the convergence of global challenges from the financial crises of the Asian financial crisis to the global financial crisis of 2008 to a pandemic, and then now to regional conflicts in Europe and the Middle East has undoubtedly impacted Bangladesh's economic landscape. In the face of such multifaceted disruptions, our nation must adopt a comprehensive strategy to navigate the complexities ahead of us. The intertwined issues of inflation, depreciation of our currency from Taka 85 to the dollar to around 115 to a dollar at present, and dwindling foreign exchange reserves, it demands a vigilant approach. Bangladesh must implement prudent fiscal policies to mitigate the effects of global economic turmoil, ensuring stability in these critical economic indicators. The geopolitical landscape, exemplified by the Russia-Ukraine war and the conflicts in the Middle East, necessitates a proactive diplomatic stance. Maintaining a balanced foreign policy marked by friendship with all nations is essential for safeguarding our economic interests. In light of potential challenges after 2026, stemming from the loss of preferential access and shifting global dynamics, Bangladesh must diversify its export basket. Strengthening the labor market through skills development and aligning our migrant workforce with the needs of the receiving countries is pivotal. Just to put things in perspective, if we look at our sub-region or the countries in our subcontinent, I understand an average migrant worker working in the Middle East sends probably a third to 1/4 of the average worker sending remittances to Sri Lanka. Even as opposed to India, I understand the average Indian migrant worker working in the Gulf areas send perhaps more than twice that of an average migrant worker sending remittances to Bangladesh. And this is primarily due to us sending unskilled labor force. If we can give them, if we can impart certain amount of training, certain amount of skills that those countries require, we will probably be able to get much more remittances than we are at present. At present, we are probably getting remittances in the tune of $24 billion. And with the right skills, I'm sure that figure is going to be much higher. Decent work is not just a moral imperative for all our industries. It is an economic necessity. Now, by promoting fair wages, safe working conditions, and workers' rights, we not only uphold human dignity, but also foster a more resilient and robust economy. Investing in the well-being of the workforce is an investment in the industry's long-term viability. We have seen in the keynote presentation about the low productivity of the Bangladesh workforce. It is one of the lowest in the world, as has been shown in that presentation. Even as far as prices are concerned, the prices that we get from our buyers is one of the lowest in the world in all the categories of products that we are making. My friend, Mr. Farooq Hassan, in his discussion, mentioned about a letter sent by 8 congressmen, US congressmen, to the Apparel and Footwear Association of the United States of America, asking them to look into areas such as working conditions, wages, and so on. We would like to pay a higher wage. We would like to pay like Germany does, but is that possible at present? It is not. There are many issues to be considered. However, I must appreciate the US congressman in their letter have also mentioned that they need to increase their prices in order to absorb the additional costs that that the industry will have to pay in order to give decent working conditions, decent wages, and so on. We would like to do it, and I'm sure the industry is working in that direction. As we discuss these issues, we must remain mindful of the role of technology and automation in the future of work. While technological advances bring efficiency and competitiveness, they also pose challenges to job security. Striking a balance between embracing innovation and safeguarding the livelihoods of workers is essential for a harmonious and sustainable future. Ladies and gentlemen, as we progress toward 2026 and the ambitious 2041 goals, infrastructure development and development of logistics in our country remain paramount. Creating an investment-friendly climate for long-term commitments, both for domestic and foreign sources, is vital. Embracing technology and renewable energy can propel Bangladesh towards a more sustainable and a resilient future. The capital market, reflecting economic health, requires prudent regulation and a focus on international standards. While regulation is an inherent requirement of any governance integrate. Sorry, I must have pressed something. Integrating digital connectivity can enhance economic efficiency as well as global participation. The notion of the RMG sector being price takers in the global market emphasizes the need for risk management and resilience. Grasping opportunities in emerging markets, such as digital connectivity and renewable energy, is crucial for sustained growth. In the context of global economic slowdown, Bangladesh's export prospects appear promising, especially in the resilient apparel sector. The rise of Asia in contributing to global growth is an encouraging factor, positioning Bangladesh strategically. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, Bangladesh must not only weather the current challenges, but also proactively shape its future economy. Through a blend of strategic diplomacy, infrastructure development, and embracing emerging trends, Bangladesh can navigate the complex global landscape and emerge as a robust player in the international area. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you indeed, Mr. Kamran Tanveer Rahman, President, Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce. And thank you for giving a strategic perspective of the industry in the context of the current situation. We have our last panelist today. He is Professor Dr. Mustafizur Rahman from CPD. I would request him to take the floor, and particularly if he can help us bring more on the recommendations part for the subject we are dealing with. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, dear audience, honorable chief guest, honorable guests of honor, special guests, my fellow panelists, excellencies, dear audience. This is month of December. Let me recall with gratitude the sacrifices made by our martyrs who laid their lives at the call of our father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. Some of us, all of us gave some, but they gave all, so that their past was not our future. Now, today's discussion is very important, and I would like to register my deep appreciation to BIS for bringing some of the very pertinent and important issues on the table. And Dr. Mahfouz has done a great credit by highlighting some of the key issues which should be of concern to us at this moment. I agree with what Dr. Mahfouz has mentioned and also our fellow panelists, but would like to also bring in some new perspective. I agree that many of the problems that we are now facing, they originate from the global system. And the slowdown in the economies of our major markets, the COVID pandemic, the difficulties that we are having in the context of market access. But I would like also to add that we should not forget that many of these malaise also originate from some of the policies that we have taken. What we are today discussing, that we should do this, we should do that, we should have done that yesterday, not today. I think that if that perspective really informs our discussion, then we will be nowhere. For example, I'll give you, the basic stack is now having to deal with 112 taka at official rate. So all these have implications for the competitiveness of the ready-made garments or for the economy. Economists have been arguing for 5-6 years that the taka is appreciated. Please depreciate it a bit. It would have perhaps stabilized at 94, 95. And we were hearing one sentence, response, it will bring inflated inflation, imported inflation. And now what is happening? Are we being able to deal with inflation? At what cost we are having to buy dollars? What is happening with the letters of credit that the importers are having to open? So I think that we should, at the very outset, recognize that we should do our own homework, appreciating the global challenges. I am not undermining the global challenges, appreciating the global challenges. This ready-made garment sector, we know that what contribution it has made to our country, our economy, and Apurva mentioned about the social impact of the positive social impact of the sector as well. But it is also true that we are not having, this is also a discussion about decent wage, and we have now increased to 12,500, yes. And as Mahfouz has mentioned, 15,000 taka is the poverty line. And it is below that. And Apurva mentioned that, yes, with overtime, it can be, it can be at par with 15,000 taka. But even if in a family of 4, you have 2 persons working and you have 2 children, your average wage is half of the poverty line, you see. So that is the challenge. You see, I'm not telling that we should make our sector unsustainable by raising. And rightly, Farooq Bhai and others, Kamran Bhai and others have mentioned about the productivity. And Mahfouz has also mentioned about productivity. So obviously productivity will have to increase. And we'll also have to explore and exploit the opportunities which the Commerce Secretary, Senior Secretary has mentioned, intra-RMG diversification as well. 70% of the global market is non-cotton, man-made fiber, polyester, synthetic. Our export 70% is cotton. So there is enormous opportunities to diversify within the ready-made garments as well. But productivity will have its own impact on labor absorption. And we will have to go that way. Now, then what happens? Then either we will have to go for intra-RMG diversification and also extra RMG diversification. Please tell me, we have been fighting in the WTO for, pharmaceuticals waiver so that we don't have to buy license and patent for patented drugs, generic drugs, etc., etc. We have been fighting it from 2000. The decision was taken in 2001 at the Doha ministerial meeting that LDCs will not have to buy patent and license for pharmaceuticals. I myself thought that pharmaceuticals will be the second ready-made garments in Bangladesh. Then what happens? It was given for 15 years till 2015. Then it was extended for 2000 till 2032 for another 17 years. And what we are doing? We have an API, active pharmaceutical ingredient park, and we are not being able to build an effluent treatment plant for the last 10 years. Why? Because this could have given us a lot of competitiveness in the pharmaceutical markets, and please know that the global pharmaceutical market is larger than the ready-made garments market. Ready-made garments with textiles is about $1,000 billion, $1 trillion. Pharmaceuticals is $1.5 trillion. So same is the leather. the leather in shower, the leather we are hearing for the last several years, the ETP, one is blaming the other, etc., etc. But the compliance requirements are going up. European Union has already mentioned that if you don't produce in a compliant way, we will not give you market access. So I think that we should, whilst we discuss, and obviously the global factors and the brands and buyers, obviously we'll have to push them. It's a buyer-driven value chain. We know it from, Economics 101. There is a buyer-driven value chain. So they are the price, giver. We are the price taker. But even then, there can be pressure. Just when the ready-made garments minimum wage was raised from 5,300 to 8,000, I was making a calculation. Only it was a significant increase of about 40%. Were the entrepreneurs making 40% profit? How did they absorb this rise in the ready-made garments minimum wage? Of course, the buyers also took some. The entrepreneurs also did some. Productivity had to go up. So we will have to think that whilst ready-made garments, obviously, as I said, is very important, its contribution, but extra ready-made garments, if we cannot diversify beyond ready-made garments, there will be a lot of changes in the labor market. What will happen is that they will have to increase the productivity, and I generally try to follow what are the imports of capital machineries for the textile and ready-made garments. And I see that over the last few years, there has been, and Farooq Bhai will be knowing it better than I do, there has been a lot of changes in the imports of capital machineries to more multi-skilling, more higher productivity machine, labor displacing machines. These are being imported. So where will the others go? And there is a gender aspect of it. Mahfouz mentioned, at one time it was 90% female labor dominated. Now it is 60% because the high technology labor absorption is going for men. So there is also the issue of creation of jobs for women. And we'll have to go outside of the ready-made garments, producing chips and others. These are also female labor dominated. We see in Vietnam, as I always try to say, the Vietnam's GDP is less than Bangladesh, but our export is $60 billion. Vietnam's export is $360 billion per year. So obviously, we will have to diversify. We will have to go for productivity enhancement, and that will have important implications for the labor market. I was looking at our export figure for July to November, and this fiscal year, 2023-24 fiscal year. And I saw that the ready-made garments, according to the EPB figure, the ready-made garments export was minus 2.7% first 5 months of this year compared to the corresponding 5 months of last fiscal year. But non-ready-made garments export was plus 25%, non-ready-made garments export. So obviously, the market is not behaving in a similar way. If there is a demand contraction, then where from this 25% growth of non-ready-made garments coming from? So obviously, there are also opportunities within the ready-made garments, and we are very fortunate that we have, proven our strong foothold in a market which is $1 trillion worth. So obviously, that's the strength. That's where we should also put our efforts, but also outside of the ready-made garments, pharmaceuticals, assembling plants, etc. I'm very hopeful that the special economic zones, if even 15 to 20 they come up, there are enormous opportunities of attracting foreign direct investment over there. If you can give them the services which we have enacted the law in 2018, One-Stop Service Act, supposed to give 126 services from one point, and now we are giving 35. But it's an incremental process, but I am very hopeful that that will be able to allow us to go for the triangulation of transport connectivity, trade connectivity, and investment connectivity. I think that is very important. But one point I would like to mention, since senior officials are here, data and information is so important for the policymakers. The EPB is telling us that this much has been exported. The Bangladesh Bank is telling us that we have repatriated that much of money. And the difference is going up every year. In 2020, between the EPB figure and the Bangladesh figure, the difference was about $2 billion. Last year, in FY 2022-23, it is $12 billion, which means that we have exported about $55 billion, and we could get the Bangladesh Bank figures. They are showing that we are getting $43 billion. Where are those $12 billion? Whenever we ask, you see there is some discount, some orders are canceled, there is some double counting, etc., etc. Please deal with this. IMF is giving us $1 billion in 1 year. And here we are talking about $12 billion of differences between what the EPB export figures are showing and what the Bangladesh actual dollar earning figures are showing. I think that these are the areas where the policymakers should come together, the Bangladesh Bank, NBR, the EPB, and try to resolve this and give the signals to those who are taking out the money from the country through capital flights, through not repatriating the earnings. Give them the zero tolerance signal, which we often hear from the highest political power base. So I think that whilst we go for the discussion, first also look at the low-hanging fruits where we can also earn the money. A money saved is a money earned. So that is, I think, one thing. With regard to the ready-made garments, I think that it is just not the responsibility of the entrepreneurs. I think the government also has to take a part of the responsibility. We have seen that the issue of compliance have come up, and once we go out of the LDC group, there will be a lot of attention on our countries. Yes, we have gone for LED certified and platinum certified, but the problem is that we are not getting the rent that we thought that we will be getting by going for green factories. So the global market is not working as we expected. Green factories have become the new normal. You will not get rent by going for green factory. These will become essential elements of sourcing. Now, obviously, the global buyers and the global brands, as I said, this is a buyer-driven value chain, but there are also global campaigns, and also the mention of the US Congress representatives was mentioned. That pressure will also have to exert on them. There is a hypocrisy between ethical buying and ethical sourcing. We should expose that. And I think that in the developed countries, the governments are looking at it. The consumers are also responding to that through their feet by buying and not buying. So I think that the BGMA can also group with them. It's good that Farooq Bhai has written to the brands and buyers, but I think that there are other stakeholders who can also be global fair trade and others. We can go together, and there has to be some pressure over there. I think that I don't think that Cambodia's productivity is that high that they are able to give that minimum wage, or Vietnam's productivity is that high. So there is also an issue of, I think, bargaining, which is involved here. With regard to the incentives, it's good that the government has now gone for 4% incentives for new markets, non-traditional markets, barring Canada, USA, and EU. But I think that, as was very rightly mentioned, that by the Commerce Secretary, that the incentives will have to be, I think, rethought, revised, and reviewed, so that where the real market segment are, where the entrepreneurs are going for productivity enhancement, I think that is where we will have to go. This mass-based, low productivity, low wage model will not work. And we are also seeing that there are pressure from, we haven't mentioned it today, but we all know there are pressure from the USA with regard to the trade union rights, with regard to what percentage of signatures a trade union organization will require. We can ignore that. We can say that we have signed all the conventions, but the issue is enforcement. And if you review the EU GSP, the new EU GSP text, you will see that so much, pressure on gender rights, good governance, environment, CO2 emission. Every entrepreneur will be compelled to say what type of CO2 emission has gone into the production process, and then they will decide whether they will give you market access or not. So all these are there. We cannot ignore what the USA has said. We cannot ignore what the EU has been saying. So we will have to be more, I think, proactive rather than reactive. And lastly, I would say that, you see, productivity is the name of the game, but it has a cost. The cost is that, as I was mentioning, that if we keep low productivity, we can, you see, I will give you one example. If we give 5,000 taka minimum wage to the ready-made garments, we can have all the, $1 trillion market in the world. But do we want to do that? We don't want to do that. Huh? We have to raise our wages because we want to give the share of our citizens some of the economic growth. Huh? So we will have to go for productivity. I remember that when Milton Friedman went to China, he saw many people, they were excavating rivers with shovels and spade. And he said, what is this? Why are these hundreds of thousands of people there excavating with a spade? Then the Chinese said that we are creating employment. And he said, then instead of a spade, you should use a spoon. You will create many more jobs. Okay, so, but we cannot do that. So we will have to have higher productivity. And through higher productivity, we will have to give more wages to our workers. That will be labor displacing. And then you will have to go for other sectors. And that will depend on how we design our policies and how fast we implement our ETPs. A simple 100 crore taka ETP in a sector of 4,500 crore taka. So what is the political economy of that? So I will like to leave with that question. I think that we can find many reasons for our current difficulties, but the first point of solution is to recognize where we have made the mistake and then take reactive and proactive initiatives in order to rectify. Enormous opportunities for Bangladesh. I can see that, through the infrastructures that we have built over the past years, now we'll have to just, connect the dots. If we can do that, then I think that, maybe after 5, 6, 10 years, we will also say that we are also exporting like Vietnam. Not $60 billion and $350 billion, but also, in hundreds of billions of dollars. There are enormous opportunities, and our ready-made garment sector has shown us the path how to go. And the last point I would like to say, which we do not appreciate, is that the success, behind the success of ready-made garments, of course, the entrepreneurs, of course, the workers, I think the government policies are also so critical. Let us give some honor and respect to the decision maker who first allowed the bonded warehouse facilities. At that time, my research shows the import duty on fabrics was 60%. But someone decided that we will allow import of fabrics at zero tariff. Many people were arguing that it will go to the domestic tariff area, there will be a lot of leakage, wastage, etc. But someone took the decision. Someone took the decision that against the master LC, we will allow import of fabrics under back-to-back LC. And that allowed our entrepreneurs to keep to go to the business with very small capital because they didn't have to pay for the fabrics they were importing. They paid it after the master LC was honored. Someone took the decision because others said these people will bring, fabrics under back-to-back LCs and they will, they will go away and Bangladesh will be in trouble that your people have imported fabrics from us and now not paying. Someone took the decision. Someone took the decision that there will be 25% cash compensation scheme if you source your yarn and fabric from domestic resources. And that's how our backward linkage industries have grown. In knitwear, almost all of our backward linkage is there, excepting cotton. So when we talk about export, let us also talk about the value retention. What percentage of the total earnings we retain in our country? So that is also very, very important. So I think that let us, because we look upon the policymakers and the honorable chief guest is here. I have known him since many, many years when there were more hair on my head. And he was also very, very young. He was secretary at that time, I think was NBR when I first met him. So he knows very well that how policies can work and why policies are so important. So at the end of the day, we look upon our politicians because they hold the vision and imagination of a nation. But we also hope that they will rise up to the challenges. A very well-functioning economy has fallen into a situation where we are now facing a lot of risks. We can come out of it, obviously, with right policies, and that's what we look for in this month of victory. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Mustafizur Rahman. He's indeed an excellent expert, and he is very well known for his clarity and density of thoughts. And we have got maximum of the recommendations of this discussion, and this contribution is very immense for the seminar. Thank you indeed. We are now going to the second part of the seminar, that is to listen to the participants and also other stakeholders. And this is through the open discussion that begins now. So at the beginning of it, I'd like to invite Mr. Aminul Haq. He is president of IBC and he's representing the workers. আপনি এখন ফ্লোর নিন। আপনি বাংলাতে যে ভাষাতেই আপনার জন্য কমফোর্টেবল হয় আপনি বলুন। জনাব আমিনুল হক। জনাব আমিনুল হক, আপনি কি আছেন? চলে গেছে। অলরাইট, উনি যদি আবার ফেরেন তখন আমরা ওনাকে রিকোয়েস্ট করব। নাও দ্য ফ্লোর ইজ ওপেন ফর ডিসকাশন অ্যান্ড we have got some requests for intervention. But we know that we have surpassed time, so we'll give you floors, but please remain very brief, less than 2 minutes. So first, Mr. Shams Mahmood. Please.
Slagum, thank you for inviting me to today's program. So there's certain points I want to make, especially regarding the RMG industry. One of the things is that globally the demand has fallen, but if we look into the total numbers, we will see amongst the decreased demand, Bangladesh has shown is in a top position, top 2 position in terms of export. So we can see that in spite of that decreased demand, Bangladesh is still competitive in the international scene. Now, there are certain points I want to bring up. A wonderful presentation by Dr. Mahfouz. Over there, he mentioned certain points, especially about productivity. The Honorable Secretary for Labor is here. Sir, one of the lowest hanging fruits for the RMG industry and productivity is just do eye testing in the garments industry. Make it a national policy. If you walk into a garments, you will see that in the floor level where they're doing the work, the actual stitching, only 3 or 4 people were wearing glasses. But if you just think logically that this person is sitting in a desk, staring at a needle point the whole day, they have eye issues. So we did the camp in our factory, and we found that almost 60% of the workers needed glasses, and productivity rose almost 22%. So this is a very low-hanging fruit. I think the government can adopt this as a national policy, and that will have a positive impact. The other thing is that we're talking about wages over here, and we also seen that Turkey is competitive. Now, the thing is, Turkey has an inflation rate of 62% this year. Their currency has been devalued 30%. But and the workers are getting the salary that the market has set. How are they affording to do that? Because the exporters are getting fair exchange rate. And that is something that we are not getting in Bangladesh. If we were getting the actual market rate set by demand and supply, which is 124, which we see in the curb market, this discussion about rising of wages would not have taken place in the first place. So that needs to be done. And also, we are talking about the export sector, but there's a knockdown effect on the CSME sector with this. So if you have a national policy on the minimum wage, then what will happen to them? So for that, I think we need rationalization of because the input cost is done at 124 taka. Whereas as exporters, we have the luxury of earning in dollars, and so we settle in dollars. So we are not affected that much by this curb market rate. And this thing needs to be looked into. And regarding the way forward, I just want to give one example. Like this year has been for me personally till June and July. My export was about 3.5 million to $4 million per month. It has gone up to 11 million per month right now in December. The reason being we have diversified we're trying to diversify from fast fashion to slow fashion. I have included now slow fashion into my mix, and we have seen that we're getting better prices and the same capacity. So the export has almost gone up like 110%. And we have included jute blended denim fabric, ocean plastic recycled fabric, then cotton recycled fabric. So these things are there. Now, the main challenge that we see in the coming days will be the GSP Plus mechanism, where we need to see a double-stage transformation. So for that, we still have not got, like we understand the government has supported the private sector, especially in the RMG industry, with very low energy bill. We understand that it is not possible for them to always subsidize this energy bill. But what we want to see is a long-term energy policy, which we have not yet got. And this is something very important. And also, there needs to be an energy audit. Incentives, once we graduate, will not be there, the cash incentive. Incentive can be given in the form of, if I can show that I have cut down my energy consumption by 2% or 3%, that can be given to me in the form of energy bills. You subsidize the energy bill instead of giving me cash. So we need to think like that from now. And the other thing is the exchange rate is there. And going down the line with the EU net zero emission rules coming into place, renewable energy will become a big thing. USAID is working on a project with major brands like H&M, where they're trying to have a system where private entrepreneurs will invest in solar plants, which will go directly to the national grid, but the investment will take place from the private sector, not the government. So the only thing that's needed is land, which is available. And with that, with the power purchase agreement, textile mills, we can show that the source of my power has been from those, the solar plant that was invested in. So that is something very crucial. And the other thing is that FTA, PTAs are important, but we want to see major, the foreign secretary is here. So I would request him that we know that the foreign minister of foreign affairs of Bangladesh has taken a policy for Look Africa, and to focus there because they have created the largest free trade area in the world right now with a population of 1.2 billion. All the other RMG industry players are already in Africa, but Bangladesh is lagging behind. So if we want our industry to be sustainable down the line, we need more renewed focus in Africa and consider that as a big market for us, because the consumer power over there will be increasing in the coming near future. Thank you.
Thank you indeed for your excellent comments, for showing us good example and also giving very pragmatic suggestions. Next intervention will be from Mr. Salahuddin. Please be very brief and
Of course.
precise.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This is Salahuddin Ahmed. I train soft skills and particularly language skills. I was member of Bangladesh Energy Regulatory Commission and a banker and faculty and a TV news host for 4 decades. I took my numbers and words from particularly the presentations of Mr. Kabir, Dr. Kabir, sorry, and Mr. Farouk, who is from BGMEI. I missed his, in fact, the level, in fact, his designation, sorry. We have 2 pieces of good news. One, we are the only nation in the planet and perhaps in the creation, in the whole creation, that a mother of humanity is on the throne of a nation like ours. And the second sets of good news is modern manufacturing process, social dialogue in factories, decent training and decent living and fair wages, and particularly about your focus on well-being and dignity. I repeat, dignity of the workers. And on the other hand, you brought some light of hope, like rise of demand in some specific niche of apparels in some specific markets. So given these fantastic facts, why still there is a gap of Taka 3,000, as Dr. Kabir mentioned, or 4,000 probably, in the wage of workers, particularly country think more, consider country bring in consideration the inflation rate of steep rate of inflation, etc. And the other thing is we heard of Bangladesh Bank and EPB. There is difference of their numbers, like $12 billion of gap in some numbers. Though we are going to enter a smart Bangladesh. So why won't we have smarter EPB or Bangladesh Bank people to bring this gap, bring down this gap. And recently we heard that a private bank, smart private bank, is having some 7 additional managing directors. So of course, they are very, very highly paid. And of course, their interest rate of lending interest rate is going up. One of the reasons is that. And Apurbo and Farooq Bhai knows better the pinches they have because they have to pay higher interest rates. So these are also small but important things that we have to look into. And thank you very much. Happy New Year, of course.
Thank you indeed. We would request,
Additional, yes.
would request Professor Askari to take the floor for his brief intervention.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman of this August seminar session, and honorable chief guest and distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'm honored to have been invited to this wonderful seminar session. And I thoroughly enjoyed, especially the keynote paper. And I must admit that Professor Mustafizur Rahman's speech is really wonderful, and it's an eye-opening speech. And I agree with him, and I would like to put emphasis on this thing that we shouldn't be, in the name of increasing our employability and with a view to increase our employability, we shouldn't be increasing the number of the laborers. We shouldn't be allowing them to use spoons in order to increase the number of the employability. So this is a very good thing, and I think we should be more innovative rather than labor intensive. We should be very innovative. And other thing which has not come into discussion, the legacy of muslin cloth, which was once during the colonial Bengal, during the time of the British Raj, the legacy of the cloth Muslim, it was, famous across the globe even. And it is said that this was the finest kind of, cloth in history. And one piece of cloth easily passes through a small ring. So why are not we reviving this legacy industry? And so far as I know that our Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has, taken very pragmatic efforts to revive this legacy industry. And I think it should come into focus, and all measures to, grow this cotton plant, which yield this yarn. And as a matter of fact, all things, export things should be taken into consideration for the growth, for the revival of this finest apparel industry. So from this floor, I would like to draw the attention of the concerned authorities and agencies to put utmost effort on the revival of this classic apparel industry in history. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Professor Askari. We quickly go to Mr. M.S. Siddiq for his very brief intervention.
Assalamu alaikum. Thanks to Mr. Dr. Mahfouz Kabir. He has elaborated about the garment sector. And my understanding is that it is a saturated sector. We should diversify, and we are discussing it, that we should diversify within the garments and outside the garments. And what is the problem? Why we can't diversify? Say, for example, Mustafiz Bhai referred already about the leather sector. We cannot export to Europe unless we have effluent treatment plant. And our national policy is they have decided to give basic trading opportunity of effluent treatment plant in leather industrial area. And for last more than 15 years, they can't complete a liquid effluent treatment plant. And there is another pending effluent treatment plant, is solid effluent treatment plant. So they will need another 20 to 25 years to complete it. And interestingly, one joint venture industry, leather industry in Bangladesh, applied to Ministry of Industry for their own effluent treatment plant in their factory. And Ministry of Industry very politely declined the proposal. So that foreign investor went out of this country. They have sold their share and they went out of Bangladesh. So what is the problem? Why we want to do business in public sector? And the second, another example, once bond license was a blessing for expanding the export of bond garments, but now it is a liability because the NBR has no capacity to give additional bond license facility to other sector. They have given some facility to leather sector and one or two to shipbuilding industry. And other sector they can't because they say that they don't have manpower and other logistic capacity to give bond license to others. So what is the solution? The solution we have, because also we are going to graduate from LDC, so we cannot give any, go for the higher customs duty and others. So why we don't try? Because government has already framed this tariff rationalization policy after a long time. So why don't we reduce the tax on basic raw materials and withdraw the policy of bond license? Because Farooq Bhai can supplement me. To maintain a bond license, their expenditure is around 20% miscellaneous expenditure. So if government impose 15% VAT on each and every import of raw materials, then government can earn huge tax, and also the user, exporter will not mind to give 15% value-added tax. It is a crude assumption that we can critically discuss it, but at least I can say, since we cannot expand this facility, we should withdraw this facility and go for zero tariff, because we have no choice. We shall have to rationalize our tariff, particularly the customs at entry point. And we are very shy about free trade agreement. Thanks to Shams Mahmood, he referred to free trade agreement, and we must go for this free trade agreement. And also, when policymakers talk about free trade agreement, they focus on GSP plus and other facilities, which are very temporary and also not very permanent. And also, we expect, and we cannot expect this GSP plus again for due diligence acts, which referred by Farooq Hassan Bhai. These due diligence acts, they will impose on the buyers. If they buy the garments, they tried their best to convince the developing country like us, Bangladesh, to go for compliant. But then they changes their policy. They are going to impose the due diligence act to the buyers. If they buy from non-compliant garments industry, say for example garments, they will impose penalty on them. So we must discuss, we must take due note of this Modern Slavery Act and Due Diligence Act, and let us be prepared by 2026 to face this law. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. You spoke on behalf of the business and made some proposals for government consideration. Now we have another request from Colonel Iftekhar Ahmed. You can take the floor.
Assalamu alaikum. I was a former research director of this institute. Thank you very much for giving the floor. I have a few points. Number one is about the salary or wages issue. It is very difficult for the factory owners right at this moment to pay the salaries because sudden increment has taken place over 60% of the wages. So my suggestion is it possible to increase it every year instead of sudden changes in a particular year? I'm sure President BGMEA can think about it. My next point is about the price issue. I think some of the weak factories are responsible in decreasing the price because when they are not having orders, they look for the order in lower price. That creates a difficulty for standard factories who are having better quality products, but they cannot get the actual price. My third point is the presidential memorandum of USA on labor standard announced recently. Do you think that it has a political implication, not business implication? This question to President BGMEA. And also my last point is not only the outside factors, inside factors like bank, NBR, customs, and audit departments, they all are influencing in government's production and their profit and wages ratio. So can anything be done from the government authorities also to facilitate this department so that they have a soft corner for the garments industry? Thank you.
Thank you indeed. We have surpassed our stipulated time, but possibly we can take just few, I mean, 2 or 3 more questions, very brief questions from the ladies particularly, or from the sides. Very briefly, and then, yes, yes, sir, you have the floor. Yes. Ambassador Amsami.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I must thank BIS for this exceptional seminar. Why? I think I've attended a lot here. First time I am seeing the business leaders interacting at BIS. Congratulations, Mr. Chair of BIS and the DG. I'll just make an overview. Our problem overall has been indicated by Dr. Mustafiz. That has to be taken in very seriously. This is called image problem, overall national image problem, business image problem. We haven't been able to develop a corporate culture. I think all the business leaders should take this into account. We have values and ethics problems. It's well known. Even colleagues indicated in the government sector as well. I think austerity, Dr. Mahfouz talked about austerity measures. In these difficult times, we don't see much of the austerity measures. It is very important. And one point for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, there used to be a lot of focus on economic diplomacy, promoting economic enterprises. When I was there, I tried very hard. I was in Brazil. I tried with the help of EPB and the then chambers to promote garments in Brazil. It was a very good market. But it failed because the business leaders of those days, I'm talking about 1996, 97, thought it's too far away. And when everything was done, about 40 or so garment manufacturers signed up, sent their samples. And during the trade fair, I find only 2 people attending. I don't know if the problem is same or not, but the Brazilian sector, actually that is where we made the chief guests. Probably, so you were there on some climate conference. I also tried this economic diplomacy while in Moscow. That was 94, 5. How? I discovered Russia was falling, but it is a big market, opportunities. The big power, but then they were needing a lot of dollars. Exceptional thing was done by the government of Bangladesh at that time. The first time Bangladesh offered credit line to Russian business, garment importers. But ultimately, I'm told when I went to Brazil, I was pushed out to Brazil. We organized $10 million, which is not a big number now, but then it was a big number for the Russian business people. But then that project failed. Why? Values, ethics, honesty, integrity in business. This is a vital aspect, and it is the responsibility of the political process, the political leadership from the top to start generating values and ethics in our overall process of nation building, and as well as the business sector, which should only take us forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Maybe probably one last comment or question. Okay, there is no interest. Then we'd like to request our distinguished panelists to make some response to these interventions and questions raised from the floor. If any of you would like to take the floor. Okay, I think that's okay. We are now going to the closing part of the seminar, and we have now two distinguished special guests of the seminar and honorable chief guest who will be making their remarks and addressing the seminar. So now I'd request one of our special guests, Mr. Mohammad Ehsane Elahi, Secretary, Ministry of Labor and Employment. Please, you have the floor, sir.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Respected Chair of the session, Ambassador AFM Gaussal Azam Sharkar, Chairman BIISS, Honorable Chief Guest, His Excellency Dr. Bashir Rahman, former Economic Affairs Advisor to the Honorable Prime Ministers, Government of the People's Republic of Bangladesh, Honorable other special guests, keynote presenters, dear audience, Assalamu alaikum and very good afternoon to you all. First, I would like to thanks to Mr. Mahfouz Kabir for your excellent presentation, and also I came to learn many things regarding today's topics. What is our situation? What is our lacuna? What is our coming challenges? So thank you very much again to all of the keynote speakers. Actually, it's my great pleasure to be here with you in this event on global economic slowdown, Bangladesh's apparel industry and disembark. With the downturn of the global economy due to COVID-19 and the Russian-Ukraine war, the apparel industry of Bangladesh is experiencing challenges in the export market. Due to effective policy measures by the governments globally, the recovery from COVID-19 was rapid. But the shock due to Russia-Ukraine war is being prolonged, affecting economies of the world. This will affect the growth and expansion of Bangladesh's apparel industry, which in turn will negatively affect job creation and employers' ability to invest for labor rights and workplace safety. Therefore, sustainable growth of Bangladesh's apparel industry is crucial for ensuring decent work in the sector. I express my sincere thanks to BIISS for organizing this seminar and inviting me to these sessions. Actually, distinguished guests, labor rights are considered as human rights. With the commitment to uphold labor rights, Bangladesh became a proud member of ILO on 22nd June in 1972. Under the visionary leadership of the father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, Bangladesh ratified 29 ILO conventions, including 5 fundamental conventions on the same day, manifesting Bangladesh's fulfilled commitment to the spirit of ILO from the very beginning. His able daughter, Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, ratified the remaining 3 fundamental conventions of ILO. On 22nd March 2022, Bangladesh ratified the ILO 138 Convention concerning minimum age for admission to employment. And earlier this year, on 20 January, Bangladesh, the Protocol 2014 also ratified Convention 29. With this, Bangladesh has ratified a total of 36 ILO conventions, including 8 of 10 fundamental conventions of ILO. The ILO time-bound and resource country program called Decent Work Country Program. This program, launched in 2004, has been implemented in Bangladesh in 3 phases. Now the 4th one for 2022-26 is under implementation. In recent years, the government of Bangladesh has made significant progress in all 4 areas of decent work, as per its pledge for the socio-economic emancipation of the people, which has been well reflected in the socio-economic indicators. This success has been well acclaimed globally. Distinguished guests, improvement legal framework is a prerequisite for ensuring labor rights. With this spirit, Bangladesh has taken significant efforts in aligning the national legislation with the ILO standard. Basic changes have been in Bangladesh Labor Act in 2006 through amendment in 2013 and also 2018. Through 2013 amendment, the provisions to share the list workers applied for union registrations to the factory owned was deleted, while in 2018, the minimum memberships requirement to form trade union was reduced from 30% to 20%. Following the ILO roadmap, further Bangladesh Labor Act amendment is under process. It needs to be presented in the next session of the parliament. Main features of the proposed amendment, among others, include: number 1, the decision of the Labor Appeal Tribunal can now be challenged only in the appellate division. Previously, it was when Labor Court Tribunal passed an order, then anyone can go for the writ petition, and so many cases are pending. That is why we have taken this amendment in recent amendment proposals. Second, the minimum membership requirement for trade union in factories with more than 3,000 workers has been reduced from 20% to 15%. Previously, it was flat rate was 20%. Now we make a slab for the simplification of the trade union registrations. And third, maternity leave have been increased from 112 days to 120 days with simplification of calculation procedure. Some agreed recommendation of ILO will be taken into the consideration. We have taken some meetings with the ILOs. They have supplied some technical notes to make our law international standards. So we already conducted 3 meetings and also appoint, and our law and justice honorable ministers given the commitment. Next time we will consider some of the recommendations which we have received from the European Union and also ILO. We are not sitting idle. We have another act, Bangladesh EPZ Labor Act 2019, and that act also to be needed for amendment. That is why they are also formed the committee and they started the amendment process last June. Right to organize is in the heart of the social dialogue, which can ensure all others labor rights through collective bargaining. To bring transparency in the trade union registration system, the standard operating procedures on trade union registration has specified the steps to be followed and the times of settle the applications. The trade union registration process has been simplified through online portal. Previously, it was manually. So anyone can apply. I have for 53 offices in the different corner of Bangladesh. So anyone can apply any offices through online to get the trade union registrations. The workers management staff and the government officials are being regularly trained because this is the new system. So with the helping desk already established in my offices. So when any person, he does not or she does not know how to apply, my staff are ready to help that workers. Since 2013, remarkable progress has been made in the area of workplace safety. With the support from ILO, brands and buyers, all export-oriented RMG factories have been assessed and remediated. Any risky factory is forced to close based on the recommendation of the task force. In order to reduce accident in non-RMG sectors, plastic and chemical factories and newly formed RMG factories have been assessed by Department of Inspection for Factories and Installment. In my ministry, I have 2 departments. One of the department is Department of Labor. They are fully responsible to dispute the resolution. Any industrial dispute arises and trade union registration providing the license. And another department is Department of Inspection for Factories and Establishment. They are fully responsible to inspect the factories. These factories are working properly, where they are maintaining the decent work, where they are providing the salaries, minimum salaries at the workers. In the factories, if there are any, if the women workers are remaining in that factories, so the owners have been established any child daycare center or maybe any overtime if any laborers work more than 8 hours, then whether he or she get the overtime. There's a checklist. My inspector is going to these factories and they inspected properly, and then if they find any lacuna or any deficiency, then they can send the shockers to the proprietor and owners, and they also within the half week or maybe the 7 or 8 days, they are ready to compliance. If not, then what we will do? My inspector lodged a complaint to the labor court. Previously, we have only 6 labor courts in the country. Now we have another, previously 7. Now another, we have newly established 6 courts. So total 13 courts are working in the different corners of Bangladesh. So if any workers or if any employers made any mistake, and then after the notification of showcases, the showcase, if not he complies the queries, then maybe my inspector lodge a complaint to the court, or maybe if any workers harassed, or maybe if even get the facilities from the according to the Bangladesh Labor Act, he or she can apply lodge a complaint to the any court of the labor court to get the relief. We have given the 2 commitments in my ministries. One of the roadmap of ILO 2021 to 2026, and also the National Action Plan for Labor Sector with the European Union. They almost same, all of the commitments. And my ministries and other relevant agencies, we are trying to fill up the commitment which we have been made to the ILO roadmap, mainly law reforms, broad areas, maybe trade union simplification, and some of the point is strengthen the DIFE, Department of Institution for Factories and Establishment, and anti-union workers and labor harassment, what we should do. So in my commitment, according to the National Action Plan for the European Union and also the ILO roadmap 2021-26, we already strengthened our DIFE, Department of Institution for Factories and Establishment. Previously, the DIFE has only 4 offices in the Bangladesh, in the corner of some districts. Now it has been increased 31 district level officers we established. And previously only 176 labor inspector are in my DIFE. We have some limitation now. We have strengthened. The strengthen of the DIFE is now 711 total strength of the DIFE, and within this, the 402 inspector already recruited. So according to the commitment, we are strengthening our DIFE. One of the point was that we have to eliminate the child labor by 2025, according to the Sustainable Development Goal and also our commitment and according to the Constitution. We have to eliminate all kinds of child labor by 2025. That is why in my ministry, we have taken one of the project and this project 4th phase already completed. According to this project, we have eliminated 190,000. That is 1,90,000 child we rescue from the hazardous job and eliminate. So this is a great success for us. So again, we have to take one of the big mega project by 2025, 100 crore taka. So the name of the new project is elimination of child labor and rehabilitation. Previously, it was not. So this is one of the excellent initiative from my ministers. And also, we already declared previously RMG and shrimp. Now we have already declared 8 sectors totally free from child labor. And also hazardous sector, we declared 43 sectors. There's a system. We inspected and then the committee recommended. Then we declared 43 sectors are hazardous in our country, like Bangladesh. Social protection for workers is embedded in the Bangladesh Labor Act, social protection, labor rights, labor protection. In my ministry, we have 2 funds. One of the fund is Bangladesh Labor Welfare Foundation. This is for informal sector. Only for RMG sector, we have one of the central fund. From these 2 sectors, if any workers fell in the sickness or injuries or during the working time there, we are providing some money actually in the talk. So this is the great achievement for our ministry. We covered formal and informal sectors, and we are providing actually fund that is took some monies for the workers for any. Even not only that, even when one worker's not able to carry out his children's study, we are providing some money from these 2 funds. This is only RMG sector central fund, and except RMG, Bangladesh Labor Welfare Foundation. Regarding minimum wage, and we have heard from the some speakers, they already noted this salary is not properly done, and maybe this is not possible by the owners to pay from the December, because then within the January 7 days by 2024, they have to pay the salary according to the minimum wage. I would like to inform you that the minimum wage board in Bangladesh determined by the minimum wage by my ministries. It is comprising from labor sides, one of the representative, In worker side, one of the representative, and one of the neutral member. He is from Dhaka University, one of the professors. So 3 members, and one of the chairman, he came from the judiciary, one of the district judges. He is the chairman of the board, and 2 permanent members. 1 members from the worker side, 1 members from the labor side. So total 3 to 5, 6 members. While framing recommendation, what they are considering? They're considering the cost of living, standard of living, production cost, production capacity, price of produced goods, inflation, nature of work, risk and standard, business capacity are taken consideration by the board. Besides what the system, first this board invite the proposal from the labor side and also the worker side. So they receive the proposal. Then they discuss these matters, and what I already noted and narrated, these things are considered. And the revised salary is increased 56.25%. And every 5 years, this board will be formed, and then they consider these ingredients. So one of the discussion said that each and every year is possible to set the board. But this is the system is that every 5 years, but there is a system is in the process. Every year, the workers, the staffs are getting the salary with the increments of 5%. So no need for the every year to make the set the board for per year to consideration of the minimum wage. Yes, I don't have any national minimum wage commission. Yes, it is a demand for the nation. That is why I formed a committee in my ministry, headed by additional secretary. And also I take some suggestions from the ILO, and also we take some suggestions from the, we are going through some papers from like India, Sri Lanka and Vietnam, where the national minimum wage policy was formed. So we are trying to make a national minimum wage board regarding the all sectors. But now 43 sectors we already declared, and from my ministry and also the minimum wage board. When one sector declared, then we formed a minimum wage board. This is the system. Because the system is not same at the garments and maybe the salt factory, maybe the biscuit factory, maybe the bidi factory. That is why a different wage board declared and different sector declared, and then we formed different wage boards. So we have been implementing, previously I said, roadmap and national action plan, because every year the ILO has conducted 2 governing body meeting and 1 international conference. At that meeting, ILO lodged a complaint according to the 26th article against our Bangladesh. That is why we have to make some remarkable progress and send some suggestion. And each and every governing body meeting is discussed each and every issue. And our Honorable Law Justice and Parliamentary Affairs Minister, he was the leader of the delegation. And I attended 3 meetings at Geneva, Switzerland. And at that meeting, when we made a progress presented by our Honorable Law Ministers, most of the countries, maybe 17 or 18 countries, they support our recommendation and they need to closer to the a complaint. But 1 or 2 countries, they raise the issue. No. This is not the remarkable progress. They are not providing the labor rights or issues. That is why it will be discussed later on. So it is going on. It is a matter of regret for us. That is why one of the recommendations was that the law have to reform. That is why we already send this law amendment proposal with 63 amendments to the cabinet, passed by the cabinet, then vetting, then it has been sent to the parliament, and parliament sent to the standing committee again sent to the parliament, and then it has been sent to the honorable president. But there is a mistake. One of the section 294. This section will be the 2, but in the printing mistake, or maybe taken 1. That is why it goes against the labor rights and labor issue. That is why honorable president sent this back, this bill, and now this session is not in the session parliament. That is why it is tamadi. And then in the next parliament session, inshallah, my ministry will be able to again send this amendment to the cabinet, and then in the first session of the parliament. And it also, but I am fortunate that because some points are raised by the ILO and also the BGME. I also shared with the BGME president the threshold of the minimum working level of the workers, that and they also maybe consider maybe 20% to 15%, not a slab, maybe in the just for at level, no slab within the year, maybe. So there is ample of time. We have it is a great opportunity to discuss again, if necessary, to take another amendments. That will be possible by my ministry. So thank you very much. In this regime, the open and free media, the world is more connected now. The consumers are more aware than before. Trading partners are more alert to ensure labor rights in each segment of the supply chain. In addition to ILO, the labor rights in Bangladesh is being regularly monitored. I repeat, ILO, the labor rights in Bangladesh is being regularly monitoring under bilateral and multilateral fora. There is nothing to hide and nothing to avoid to retain access in the global market. I believe important suggestions will come out from the discussion in this seminar, based on which shall have the opportunity to plan our future strategies in ensuring labor rights in Bangladesh. I thank you all for the patient sharing. Joy Bangla. Khuda, Allah Hafiz.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mohammad Hassan Elahi, Secretary, Ministry of Labor and Employment, for particularly highlighting the efforts of the government and its policy stand and the concrete steps it has taken and has been taken for the improvement of the whole sector, and also for improvement of the rights situation and improvement of labor and employment. Thank you indeed. We would like to request His Excellency Ambassador Masood bin Momen, Foreign Secretary and Senior Secretary, to deliver his valuable remarks. The floor is yours, sir.
Our Chair, Ambassador Gausul Azam Sarkar, Dr. Moshir Rahman, former Economic Affairs Advisor to the Honorable Prime Minister, our Chief Guest, Secretary, Ministry of Labor and Employment, Director General of BIS, Dr. Mustafizur Rahman of CPD, President and my friend of BGMEA, President MCCI, Vice President BKMEA, Excellencies, keynote presenter Dr. Mahfouz Kabir, representatives from business, industry, academia, and the press. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to you all. In this month of victory, I want to express my deepest homage to the memory of the greatest Bengali of all time, the architect of independent Bangladesh and the father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. I also pay my tribute to the 3 million martyrs, 200,000 mothers and sisters, and all the brave freedom fighters who made supreme sacrifices for the birth of the country in 1971. The current state of the world economy is characterized by significant uncertainty resulting from the combined impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and the Russia-Ukraine war. This has led to a decrease in demand, disruptions in the supply chain, and substantial inflation fueled by high energy prices. The Bangladesh economy has also been affected by these cumulative effects, particularly in the ready-made garment sector. As a transitional economy like Bangladesh, it is crucial to maintain a sustained growth. However, the global turmoil has resulted in a reduction in demand for RMG products, leading to a decline in our export earnings. Additionally, the stagnated demand has affected investors who have primarily focused on high-end products. This situation forces investors to operate their businesses with reduced profits, if not losses. The apparel industry in Bangladesh is crucial to our economy, making us a key player in the global market. Currently, the ready-made garments sector constitutes approximately 85% of Bangladesh's total merchandise exports. What is even more striking is that this industry is not just about numbers, it is about our people. Over 4 million hardworking individuals, mostly women, which is roughly twice the population of New Mexico, find employment and earn their livelihoods in this sector, contributing to the vibrancy of our nation and the economy. When it comes to our global partners, the United States is the top destination for our garments, accounting for about 1/5 of our total goods exports. The European Union, with countries like Spain, Germany, Italy, France, Belgium, and the Netherlands closely follow. Our friends in the UK and Canada are also significant buyers. Distinguished guests, the decrease in work orders from global clothing retailers and brands to Bangladesh can be attributed to the high cost of living in Western countries and an excess of apparel stocks in stores. This decline is primarily due to increased inflation in Western economies resulting from the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine, among other factors. It should be noted that the European Union, UK, and the United States together account for more than 3/4 of Bangladesh's apparel exports. The rising consumer prices in these regions put additional strain on their consumers, leading to reduced demand for garments items from Bangladesh. However, the garment sector has attracted an investment of $25 billion, with a parallel investment in the primary textile sector covering spinning, weaving, and dyeing industries. Forecasts suggest that an additional $25 billion may be invested in the textile and garment sectors over the next 5 years, with the aim of achieving apparel shipments worth $100 billion. The disruptions caused not only economic challenges, but also had a profound impact on the well-being of our workers. However, instead of deterring us, these challenges have motivated introspection and collaborative efforts to pursue sustainable growth. Under the leadership and necessary directives of the Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, the government, in collaboration with key players in the garment sector, has shown unwavering commitment to ensuring the welfare of employees. The passing of the Bangladesh Labour Amendment Bill 2023 exemplifies our commitment to adapt and enhance labor laws to address the evolving needs of our workforce. I strongly believe that the government of Bangladesh will continue to work on providing incentives for workers, and further steps can be taken in this regard. It is important to remember that improving relations between workers and owners is an ongoing process, and we are gradually seeing improvement in this area. Ladies and gentlemen, Bangladesh's position as a global supplier of RMG goes beyond economic transactions. It is also about building relationships with international partners. These partnerships highlight the importance of maintaining a robust and reliable supply chain, even in the face of external economic pressures. Furthermore, Bangladesh's commitment to green industries and meeting global quality standards sets a benchmark for responsible manufacturing practices. The presence of LEED certified garment factories and the dedication to environmental sustainability, as demonstrated by the Partnership for Cleaner Textile program, showcase Bangladesh's proactive approach in shaping a sustainable future for the industry. This dedication to green initiatives aligns with the broader goals of sustainability and environmental responsibility, positioning Bangladesh as a leader in responsible manufacturing practices. As the world grapples with climate change and environmental degradation, Bangladesh's proactive approach to green industries not only meets global quality standards, but also sets a benchmark for environmentally conscious manufacturing. Distinguished audience, Alongside the industry's growth, the government has taken significant steps to ensure the safety and well-being of garment workers. Necessary laws and regulations are being implemented to protect workers' rights, reflecting a commitment to social justice and human rights. However, the global economic slowdown has emphasized the need to reassess and recalibrate these measures to address emerging challenges and safeguard the welfare of our workers. The recent US presidential memorandum has already created apprehension in Bangladesh's apparel industry because of the possibility of restricted entry to the US market. It may have negative consequences in sourcing raw materials from and exporting apparel to other countries. The significant progress made so far for improving work conditions for our workers will be greatly hampered if such restrictions are applied. It is a shared responsibility of the entrepreneurs, buyers, development partners, importing countries and regions, experts and other stakeholders to collaborate to overcoming these challenges. Ensuring the sustained success of the industry and the well-being of our workers, together with active support and cooperation from the US government, EU, ILO, and other organs of the United Nations, we need to chart a path towards a more robust and sustainable future for Bangladesh's apparel industry and its diligent workforce. Together, we can continue to weave a story of growth, innovation, and global recognition. Ladies and gentlemen, Bangladesh's apparel industry has been a shining example of success, playing a significant role in the country's economic growth. This industry has not only contributed to economic prosperity, but also fostered social development with the thousands of women employment for more than 4 decades, thereby promoting economic inclusivity. Any restricted or restrictive measures against the industry will essentially lead to factory closures and job losses of these female workers. It would derail the country's drive towards achieving the SDG 5 on gender equality and give rise to extremism and radicalism in the society. LDC graduation and gradual lift of trade benefits will pose further challenges for our RMG export. To navigate our way forward, daring all these challenges, we have to adopt classic as well as creative measures. Besides looking for newer and non-traditional markets, we need to climb up the value chain. I'm happy to see many of our producers opting for high-end and high-value items. Others also should follow the suit. Besides, we also should consider this industry a near mature industry, keeping in mind its long journey. We should, in our mind at least, be ready to build it resilient to any challenges, both domestically and globally. We need to strive for achieving the double bottom line of ensuring labor welfare and remain competitive in global market as well. I do firmly believe that we can achieve this through collaborative efforts of all relevant stakeholders. Foreign Office is and will always be there with open arms and mind. Our missions abroad are dedicatedly working, connecting our RMG industry with newer markets. Before concluding, a few words of caution. I hope I will not offend my good friend Farouk, the BJMEA president, and others associated with RMG sector. But I take some solace because already some of the speakers before me have mentioned this, including Dr. Mustafizur Rahman. Nobody will be able to deny the contribution of RMG to our economy and society. As a student of economics, I still recall Development Economics 101, the role of primary growth sector and eventual transition with the help of secondary and tertiary sectors. Too much dependence on one sector also brings about huge vulnerabilities. I need not explain further. We therefore need to diversify our export basket for the long-term sustainability of our economy. Pharmaceuticals, leather products, jute products, fisheries and agri products, light manufacturing products, porcelain and ceramics, and other artisanal items, ICT-related hardware, and ICT-enabled services all have tremendous potential to diversify the export basket. I would urge BEES to organize the next seminar on the theme of diversification way forward by involving all stakeholders. With this, I would like to express my sincere thanks and gratitude to BEES for organizing this important and timely seminar. Thank you all. Joy Bangla. May Bangladesh live forever.
Thank you, sir, indeed, for your excellent suggestions and particularly for bringing in excellent insights and also your suggestions. You have mentioned certain very vitally important points. One particularly struck me, that is radicalization. It is indeed a danger that lies there. And also, I mean, in that process, there is a danger of the erosion of our female workers' negotiating powers. So that is very important. And of course, a vitally important suggestion is that of diversification, because that is our alternative and a significant way forward. It is needed to consolidate our economy. Now, it gives me great pleasure to invite Honorable Chief Guest and to give us, to enable us to benefit from the voice of wisdom and guidance. Honorable Sir, you have the floor.
Let me thank the organizers for inviting me. It's a great opportunity for me to update myself on many of the issues which have been raised. And I was happy that I met many of the friends that I had worked with when I was younger. Dr. Mustafizur Rahman mentioned that, but he didn't mention that I had also black hair at that time. I was particularly happy to rediscover General Amsa Amin here. There was only one occasion when I visited Brazil, and General Amsa Amin was the ambassador. Syed Abdul Samad, who was then the principal secretary to the Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina in the mid-late 1990s. So he took us to Brasilia, and we went to a departmental store, not very impressive compared with the departmental stores in USA. In a corner of the store, there was a small corner where garments were sold. So we went to see that small corner, and to my pleasant surprise, I found out that they were selling some garments made in Bangladesh. They were not very high quality garments at the lower end in the 90s, but it was there. If my memory is not failing me, I think I heard from Ambassador General Amin that there are also a small market for cutleries and porcelain imported from Bangladesh, but that went mostly through an informal channel. So it didn't make a very large show. Now, the interesting part of that visit to Brazil was Bangladesh was experiencing problems in respect of procurement, government procurement. The procurement rules were not made at that time. And the UNDP invited us to go to Brazil to see how Brazil makes a much more efficient business of procurement. So we attended one or two sessions, long day sessions with the Brazilian officials and also UNDP representatives. The
important learning from that session was that Brazil had very long, detailed instructions on how to purchase things. And their instructions on procurement of automobiles ran to about 45 pages, describing how large should be the windows, how large should be the doors, and so on. So we are told, or this was whispered to us, that the purpose was to prevent import from certain other countries and to protect the domestic market, domestic production. They didn't grow in any case. And the officials found it impossible to follow those rules. So they handed over the money to UNDP office that you procure for us, and UNDP followed their own rules. So that is how they solved their rules. When you fail to do your own homework, you may have to look away at others. And fortunately for Bangladesh, we have experienced problems. We got stuck at some point of time, but somehow or other, we overcame and we found our solutions, not without listening to others, not without giving attention to how others have done it, but we adapted our solutions. We might have taken some time. Some people might have been able to do it much faster. But in any case, I believe that the institutions and procedures and initiatives cannot be sustained unless there is an important domestic input into it. And if you look at our private sector, I think you will be convinced that the private sectors did join in the national efforts for growth, for development, and that also is a great part of the success story that we can talk about. Not that they do not have weakness, not that they do not have failures, but on the whole, it has worked well. I should also compliment Mahfouz Kabir for his very informed, detailed paper. I wish I had the paper earlier. Not that that would have done me much good, because I was sick and I had cough and cold, and wouldn't give attention to it even if I had it. But I think I will take up this paper. In the light of the discussions, it will help me understand it much better. Now, the Bangladesh has entered the global market, and as a result, we have to be concerned about how things are changing in the world and around us, and how things are changing within us. So there is a continuous transformation of the economic challenges that we face, and therefore there has to be continuous update and continuous adaptation to those challenges. As I said, that we have been doing it. Part of that is exchange rate management, tariff policies, fiscal policies, or prudent fiscal policies, as Mr. Kamran Rahman informed us, and also how to deal with inflation. In much of the discussion these days, inflation features very strongly, and I think it would not be wrong to trace it back to the problem with dollar as an international currency, which is regulated by domestic interest and domestic policies. So that is a core problem. Now, US thinks that the 2% is an optimum inflation. If the inflation goes beyond higher than that, you have to bring it down, and contraction of demand being the only effective method of doing that quickly, you strike on the demand. That also affects us. Now, there are some economists in USA who feel that this 2% inflation rate is not something very reasonable. This 2% was canonized by Greenspan, who was a federal chair for about 20 years or 18 years, the longest serving Federal Reserve Chairman. And the two eminent economists who take issues with him are Larry Summers, who was a Treasury Secretary with Clinton, and Oliver Blanchard, who was chief economist of IMF for a long time and a professor at MIT. Both of them feel that about 4% would be the right inflation to target. And that gives the policymakers a little space to make adjustment. If you aim at 2%, and if something goes wrong, you have to drive down interest rate into the negative zone. Or they respectively say zero bound interest rate, which basically means your interest rate goes down. Now, if you apply that to a Bangladesh situation, which we are used to do, because we read those textbooks and those cases, you are forced into a negative interest zone. Now, if the real interest is negative, that also impacts your motivation for savings. What happens? We don't put the money in the intermediation institution, we take it out, and if you have a little more money, you put it in tangible real assets, particularly urban real estate, in the rural land market and so on, because the value there increases much faster than your financial investment can bring you back. So that kind of puts a damper on investment and also, savings, and which ultimately affects also investment. So the present concern about exchange rate, I think that has to be addressed in the context of some medium-term operational program, but also within the larger or the longer context of maintaining an equilibrium between what the market would set and what should be the actual transaction rate. The central bank does calculate something that they call real effective exchange rate and also the nominal exchange rate and so on. When the gap grows very vast, then there is a problem in the market transaction. As many of you say, the car market is higher and the unofficial rates are much higher than the official rates, and the exporter does not get always all that they deserve. So that's one thing that we should attend to. There's a lot of talk about what Vietnam is doing, what some other countries are doing. There was reference to Sri Lanka and Vietnam particularly. And I find that very interesting. In the 70s, Sri Lanka featured as the best welfare state among the low-income countries. It's a very generous welfare system which allowed free education up to the university level and also free ration, so 2 or 3 kgs of rice to each member of a family and so on. They could not sustain it. But they also had a very high rate of literacy. So I always feel that when you talk about Sri Lanka workers getting 4 times higher than what our workers abroad get, we should also look at the educational base. Unless the education base is wide and also the contents are commensurate with what is the demand in the market, we can't just say that they are getting 3 times or they are getting 5 times, so why shouldn't we get it? And if we are saying that we need to develop our skill, definitely when the skill goes up, we will get something, we will get much more than what we get now. But I always ask a question: can we segment workers going abroad from the overall education system within the country? It's very unlikely that supporting education by public investment in order to improve the productivity of the workers who will go abroad, it does not help ultimately. We have to develop the skill level for the entire labor force, part of which will go abroad. And they will get much higher wages than we do. But I mean, I'm encouraged by seeing that Mr. Kamran is nodding. Mr. Kamran is one of the private sector leader for a long time. If that happens, you should also consider that that's a signal that you have to be prepared to pay a higher wage to your workers. But then you start competing with what they would get abroad. And you can't say that, okay, we have an advantage in terms of abundant labor supply, so we can take advantage of low wage and keep on exporting low wage labor intensive exports. So I mean, that has started only transforming, and we have to diverse within the garment sector. And as Mr. Dr. As he said, we have to diversify within garments and away from the garments, and also to new markets. Along with that is the question of productivity. Dr. Govi's paper showed that we have one of the lowest productivities in the world. The wages have some relationship with productivity. As the productivity goes up, we are more competitive, the wages go up, and so on. The productivity also requires investment in the capital machinery. Without the capital goods, I mean, if you assume that the capital machinery does not change over time and you hire more and more workers, you don't really produce a higher value product. So the investment has to go up, the technological investment has to be there. Infrastructure and logistic that is necessary, which has to be provided by the government. And I think the government has a good track record of investing in infrastructure. Logistic is partly government, but I think significantly private sector. If logistic means that you deliver goods from one place to another place within time at a cost, much of this has to be done by the private sector's transportation management. The government would be responsible for the network over which the transport moves, but the transport has to be moved by the private sector. The private sector has a very critical role in a growing economy, which I think our private sector has been doing, but maybe the nation demands much more from them than they have so far done, or they are at this moment able to do. Now we are talking about export diversification, etc., export growth, and so on, at a time when the global view about the external market is changing. In the 60s or beginning the 70s, I guess the focus was on globalization. It has gone through a time of critical reappraisal, and there's a kind of rethinking that globalization as it has developed may not be able to deliver benefits to all the participants in the globalization process. Particularly, the developing countries may have problem in adapting to the fast changing structure of globalization. I think the developed countries also have, to some extent, turned inward looking. Now, if the developed countries are turning inward looking, then there's a mismatch between the normative talk about globalization, export, etc., and the shrinking export market that we have. I mean, there are countries which will lead the globalization process. It doesn't seem to me that they have bought this economic openness as a basic theme of their policy. Maybe some parties in the developed countries feel that their economy should be more open. But there are competing parties which think that they should look more inward, and there are other geopolitical considerations for that, which I think I should not go into. But the fact remains that globalization and export market are not as open as it used to be 20 years ago or 30 years ago. So the competition is much stronger than it is today. Productivity, there is no doubt that the productivity has to increase. I think the industry ministry has adopted a program, master plan for productivity increase. There is one aspect of that productivity master plan is to measure the actual productivity in certain industries, critical industries, and also to suggest how productivity can be improved in the critical industries in which we have advantage and which we want to promote in the export market. Information, data, definitely they are very important. And they're important also because the economic structure is changing. I remember when I, as an official, had to take some interest in these numbers. The reports dealt mostly with, or generally with, public sector enterprises. There was very little about industry or business as a whole. So when I tried to find out why this was happening, most of the time I got the reply that the major industries are in the public sector. The private sectors are a small part, and they're mostly in business and as suppliers, contract suppliers to the government. So if we cover the public sector, we have more or less information. But as the private sector is getting important, as a matter of fact, the private sector played a much larger role in the economy always, not necessarily the organized sector, but that information was not available as much as it should be. But now that has improved. Now there is one aspect of it is how the numbers are generated and how the numbers are interpreted, how the numbers are appreciated by those who take decisions. It is not only the government, but also the private sector which will make the major investments. So all of us have to look at the numbers very carefully. There's a pointed reference to the gap between EPB number of export and the Bangladesh Bank's number of export receipts. The number is big, but I guess it does call for a more intensive inquiry into how the numbers are produced. If I recall something from my old days, which goes back to the 1990s, and that may be a little obsolete, EPB's numbers are taken primarily from the customs entries. The customs entries are interested in the taxes they would collect. Export is tax exempt. So what is the interest of a customs official to spend 2 hours on assessing the value of the export that is being effected? I do not know. So, I mean, if we look at the numbers as the EPB's numbers are basically what is reported by the exporter according to his assessment, and the Bangladesh Bank's number is actually the receipt for the value of the export. I think the BB's number is more reliable than the export EPB's number. But then we have to go into these differences between the customs booking, EPB's collection of number, and Bangladesh Bank's number. There will be some gap of what is the actual value and what is the actual the receipt. that is there. But to go straight away to the opinion that this represents the extent of capital transfer, that I guess is a quick, you must do quick a conclusion, but it does require an examination of the number. As to the interpretation and the appreciation of the number, as I said, the think tanks are contributing. The government also is looking into the number. The private sector organization perhaps are looking into the numbers, but they may not be making it public. But maybe all of this information, all of these initiatives can be brought together, which will be useful for the nation as a whole. The delivery of the performance of the regulatory bodies and the services and so on, and the delivery, 1-point service delivery of the BIDA, that's very encouraging. That's very encouraging, but I think after the new government is formed, the government will have to take a much serious look into it. How much it will be possible and how we can strengthen BIDA's professional capacity to do it. Now, if you have, say, 15 regulatory bodies exercising their control over what industries to be done, what industry cannot be done, what are the likely environmental impact, then there are bodies to do it. Some of the expertise has to be created within the BIDA also. Let me share my experience with you. When I was in the NBR in 1992 or 91, we had a BIDA chairman who is a secretary, who had been a secretary under whom I had worked as a joint secretary. So it was not called BIDA then, it was called what? BOI. He was the chairman of BOI. So BOI would recommend for exemption of taxes, tax reduction, extension of gas or electricity and so on. So I proposed to my former secretary, who was the chairman, sir, I would propose to the government that all the powers that NBR has would be transferred to you in respect of the recommendation that you make. Your recommendation, you can give a legal effect to it. Secondly, I would also suggest to the government that the Planning Commission keeps an amount at your disposal. When you think that an electricity line has to be extended to a new factory or a gas line has to be extended, you allocate money from this. His reply was, do you think I have gone crazy? And if I do it, I will face many investigations. I said, why are you so worried about it? But his logic was very substantial. He said, you see, you cannot take a decision in isolation unless you have looked at the whole picture. I do not have the whole picture of development policy program. I do not have the whole picture of the taxation program. So how do I say that the X should get this advantage unless I know that the cases of X and Y and Z's should be treated at par? I don't have that information. So I can only say that a case which comes to me does deserve some consideration. So that's why I said that it has to be looked more carefully. And the case for enabling and developing the capacity within BIDA should be improved in order to facilitate this these services. But I think, again, falling back on my experience, the government have some small funds for small schemes, which doesn't have to go through this elaborate project preparation. So for my areas, I got some money. I got some money from grants from the government for river bank protection. so maybe 1 crore or 1.5 crore or so. When this local engineering department wanted to do that, there was an objection because we need a permission from this environment protection organization or whatever the organization is. So my tadbir was with them that if there has been a river which bank has broken, and if there is a question of restoring that bank, it is unlikely that it will have a severe bad impact on the environment. It was very difficult to convince them. But those who are implementing that small project, they had a way of getting it resolved, which was basically they start the work and so we have to spend half of the money and half of the money would be wasted unless we get it. There are local offices also, so they sort it out. But as far as I know, these environment regulations have not been fully worked out. It is there as a concept, it is there as a good wish, it is there which has to be supported, strengthened, but the technical and the professional expertise is not there. Therefore, the small things get stuck and the big things get out of the net. And the Planning Commission perhaps need to rethink whether their committees which look at the projects should also have members from this Environmental Protection Agency so that they can at the project approval process can raise what are the likely issues to be looked at. Finally, let me look at this labor rights. The Labor Secretary has very correctly observed that it's part of the human rights and so on. Recently, I was trying to educate myself on the rights issue. There's one book which in the introduction writes, it quotes a statement from one of the persons who had taken a lead role in having the UN Declaration on Human Rights adopted. He said that we are adopting it on the assumption that no one will ask us what are the grounds. And the juristic discussion says that, well, it has to be an assertion that you have a right. And if you want to go into the logic of the right, you end up without finding any consistent logic for any particular right. And there's another group which says that rights creates obligation. If I have a right, there is someone else who has an obligation to create a situation and to deliver the rights to me. So the rights are joined with obligations. Unless there are obligations, there is no rights. I have right to my property, and you have an obligation not to encroach on my property, not to steal away the crops from my property. So that's one way of looking at it. But when it is not a bipartisan or bilateral issue of rights and obligation, what happens then? It is the society or on behalf of the society which has to deliver the rights which are basically the welfare rights. By and large, all states have now accepted this. Now, when you talk about labor rights and a wage which is justified in terms of a living standard and so on, the obligation is on the employer to give the required or the living wages or the minimum wages to them. And the government or the public responsibility is to see to it that there's a balance between what should be given to the workers as a matter of their right and what the employer can give. If it stresses the employer's ability, then at some point of time, that enterprise may collapse. And if the enterprise is not moving and if it is not growing, then it will affect employment, it will affect wages and so on. So there's very critical issues the whole way. I was in USA doing something else, I mean, it's partly official, but not exactly official. When President Biden joined the United Automobile Workers picketing, he was seen at the front line and he declared his empathy with the workers and his commitment to protect the labor rights and so on. I felt that there's a surprising similarity between how we approach labor rights and how Biden has approached labor rights. Now, he was giving moral support to a cause. Because in USA, the labor regulations are part of the state's responsibility. So the federal government cannot enter into it. The federal government's law and the federal government's ordinances with respect to minimum law applies only to federal government employees. Now, in a country where the government does not own many enterprises, it affects mainly the public sector or the government employees, not the workers in a larger sense. Secondly, what is the structure of collective bargaining? In the USA, there are some major enterprises like United Automobile Workers. They focus on the negotiation of wages and working conditions and so on with 3 or 4 major automobile producers. Whatever is established there with some adaptations are applied to the minor producers. So that kinds of gives stability to the wages, provided the state does not insist on having something very dramatically different from what has been done. I think 2 or 3 years ago, the Nobel Prize went to a research into how minimum wage affects employment. They found an experiment in Philadelphia, which had no minimum wage law, and New Jersey, which had minimum wage law. After they had enacted this, they didn't see that there was any difference between employment in New Jersey or employment in Philadelphia. So their conclusion was minimum wage does not impact employment. This impact on employment was a major argument against fixing minimum wage. Now, what does our Prime Minister do? She does not actively participate in the negotiation. She is not a part of the tripartite collective bargaining, but she exercises a moral influence on the employer that this is what he should give to the workers, and a similar moral influence on the workers that this is what you should work, because if they do not have the motivation to invest and run the enterprises, there will be no employment. So she exercises this moral influence with an added advantage. The added advantage is there is no state law which can ordinance something different. So that's an advantage she has to implement also the moral influence. So that's an advantage that Bangladesh has, which we have been doing. And that has helped kind of bring the employer and the workers into balance. There is an apprehension whether this commitment to human rights, to labor rights, etc., would affect our export, our economy, and so on. I have been an optimist most of my life. It started when my hair was black and it survived through my gray years. Is because, as you have said, that we are one of the cheapest suppliers of RMG to US and European market. I do not know, but this information must be available with many of you, what proportion of their import is made by Bangladesh. They cannot immediately switch away from Bangladesh to another. So there is a domestic demand for the importing countries to see to it that this cheap export continues. But while this gives us a strategic moment for preparing ourselves, it should not make us complacent that we don't need to do it. Because labor rights are part of our consideration as human beings. And sooner or later, we'll have to do it. And even if there is no pressure, the fact that our consciousness of what we owe to each other as human beings are improving over time, not only with us. I mean, it is happening all over the world. So we'll have to do it on our own. Even if no one else tells us about it, no one threatens us about it. But we should be able to explain to them in a logical and convincing way that in our circumstances, these are the kind of things we can do, and not that we don't want to do it, but we don't want to do it, we don't want to rush through it in a manner that things, I mean, the source of a good living, the source of an improved society itself is destroyed. We should not do into that. I think it was Jeffrey Sachs who popularized the term, or for whom this term was popularized, shock therapy. You do it very quickly. I mean, when I was younger, I also subscribed to that, because once you start changing the rules and changing the conditions, there are some people who lose, there are some people who gain. Unless you arrange to compensate who lose, you don't get their support. And if you are tilted all toward those who gain, you cannot sustain that change. But his experience showed, I mean, he succeeded in one or two small countries in South America, one or two countries in East Europe. But when he started dealing with most probably Russia, he found that it doesn't work. So you see that, I mean, how the Russia had affected the reforms and how certain other countries have affected the reform. So shock therapy may not work because over time, certain institutions, certain behaviors, certain interests have grown. Those who make policy cannot declare war on the whole society. They cannot declare war on the important elements of the society. Those who make policies have to consider how the different segments of societies would be affected. And the ultimate test for them is they do recognize the need to compensate the losers, and then they recognize the need to take away a little bit from the gainers and give it to those who lose. So that kind of balance and that kind of transfer has to be a part of the reform process. I think, and I may be prejudiced because I had worked with the government for too long for someone to remain independent, that the government for the last 1.5 decades had by and large followed that policy. It might have appeared soft sometimes, but if you look at the result, it did produce results. So we can't say that it didn't work, but it didn't work with the spirit that someone else wanted. It didn't work with the same distribution of benefits as someone else wanted. I mean, I don't think there is any economic system or any country which does that fully satisfactory to all the stakeholders. But on the whole, if it works, if it produces results, that's a good thing that we can say about the government which is in office and which has been in office for the last couple of years. Let me confess to you one of my weaknesses. I have developed a kind of nervousness with numbers. As I said, the numbers, how they are generated, how they're interpreted, how they are appreciated. But this nervousness has got much stronger as I start counting my age. So the age has started working against me, and it has contributed to my nervousness. So I try to avoid very particular numbers and try to look at the underlying trends. And my feeling is that it is very important to see the underlying trends and how the different segments of the society will react to some changes that the government wants to bring about, how the impacts will be distributed and so on. So we may focus on the trend and may not rush through something and ultimately spoil the good intentions. Let me conclude by thanking the contributions made by particularly the article by Mahfuz Kabir, the informed and critical discussion of the panelists who are very informed and very critical. And on the whole, the spirit was, how can we help the society to move on? And I don't think any of us have the final answer, but all of us put together have the most feasible answer. So I think the spirit was in that direction. That was one benefit of this consultation. And finally, the Senior Secretary Foreign Affairs, he has instructed what should be the next topic for the BIISS. I would only add that the foreign ministry or an agency of the foreign ministry, it has an advantage over, say, the commerce ministry or EPB or any other particular ministry in terms of also bringing in the geopolitical perspective. It is difficult to say something very clearly about geopolitical perspective. But I think in our discussion, the geopolitical perspectives are not always explicitly recognized. So these would be the identification of the possibilities, not one unique possibility, but maybe 3-4 alternative possibilities, and how we can use our strength in order to respond to those alternative possibilities. That would be strategic option that we have, which will be helpful to the private sector, which will be helpful to the government policymakers, not directly to the foreign ministry. I mean, this does not form part of the classical diplomatic relationship, which is mostly focused on politics. Nowadays, also increasingly getting focused on economics. But there, I guess, there's alternative possibilities are important to recognize. So thank you again for inviting me, and thanks the organization for inviting me. Thank you.
I think there is not much left to talk about after the chief guest speech, which has come to us as a real voice of wisdom. He has indeed given many answers, which we had in our minds while we were discussing this topic. And also he has given us guidance. And his suggestions are indeed extremely valuable for in the interest of the industry, in the interest of the contribution that this industry makes to our economy and to our future. Definitely, all the panelists and the discussants, and even from the floor, those who have made the interventions and made their comments were very rich and very insightful, and immensely served the purpose of this seminar. I would indeed like to say that the seminar was successful because it brought all the aspects of the issues that are concerned, and also it has brought a rich array of recommendations which are very timely and which the government will have to address. Definitely, you have come to know what the government has been doing. It's been doing in different capacities and manners, and in a very timely way. And lot of things, lot of schemes and initiatives are also on the way. And definitely the business sector and the two main units or streams of this industry organized under BGMEA and BKMEA. They are well aware of the issues and challenges, and they are also now with these recommendations better equipped to deal with the situation that is there. Finally, at the end, I would really thank and express our special gratitude to Honorable Dr. Mashur Rahman, former Economic Affairs Advisor to the Honorable Prime Minister, the chief guest today, for his excellent speech and his guidance. And also I thank and appreciate the three special guests who were there to guide us as well with their enlightening interventions, and also the panelists who have really made this seminar successful. And also, finally, I'd like to thank you all, the participants who have made it possible to come here at the end of the year. Many are from the business. We know that they are closing, and they have a lot of work on this day. And I thank the think tanks and academia who are present, and also thank at the end my colleagues in BIISS, including the staff who made extensive preparation for this hastily arranged program. I thank you all and extend the greetings of the new year and wish for the best in the year 2024 to you all. Thank you.
Honorable Chair, I have a humble appeal. My friend flanking me from Brunei was telling that Dr. Mashur Rahman, our honorable chief guest, he stood for 47 minutes or so at his age of 80 or so. And with his voice of wisdom, as the chair said, with his voice of wisdom, he made a professorly deliberation. Doesn't he deserve a standing ovation from us, please?
We have come to an end of today's seminar. I would like to request the chief guest, special guest,